Yo, what is up, folks? Welcome back to another podcast. First of all, happy holidays, folks. Hope all is well during this holiday season for you all. We have plenty of questions to answer here today. And if you guys have been here, you guys know how this goes. I'm going to let the people know that we are live. If you want to be let know that I am live, make sure to join my Discord. The description is below. So give me a second while I do that and let them know that. Plenty of great questions asked today, so appreciate all the guys that asked questions before the live stream. And again, if you want your question answered in depth, make sure to ask questions beforehand, before I go live, because I do try to give an in-depth analysis to each one. So if you guys would like that, make sure to ask questions ahead of time. All right. All right, folks. Before I begin, make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to hit the like button. Gets us up in the algorithm, gets more people viewing us, etc. And it results in more people being in the streams, which transitively means better conversations, more fruitful discussions, and more minds going at it during a discussion at once, I should say. So make sure to hit the like button. Hit the sub button if you're new. Let's get right to it. So a lot of what-if questions asked today. The first what-if question was, if Minato was able to survive the Nine Tails and continue to be Hokage, how would Obito's plans change? Or what would transpire in the shinobi world? All right, it's a good question. So simply put, this is my analysis on this. If Minato were alive after the Nine Tails attack, Obito would certainly have to adjust his plan to deal with someone who is superior to himself, with Minato arguably being the strongest shinobi on Earth at this point in time, right? I mean, there is an entire nation that had to run from him whenever he showed himself. There was a written order put on an entire army to run away from him if they see him. So that alone allows us to rationally deduce that Minato is one of the greatest, if not the greatest shinobi on Earth at this point in time. So Naruto would have a much smoother childhood, with his father being present in his life, and his overall character development and power scaling progression would be vastly different. Clearly, right? He'd have his father there to train him. Who knows, maybe he'd even learn how to use the Flying Raijin with his father present. It's very likely. Continuing on. And the Uchiha clan massacre would have never taken place, as Minato would take charge and not allow Danzo to cause the damage they did, unlike spineless Hiruzen, who was not a very good leader and let Danzo have his way. Right? Minato is more cutthroat, he's more direct, he wouldn't allow that to take place. So, continuing on. Hence, this also allows us to rationally deduce that Sasuke and Itachi would grow up together, and Obito would never have Itachi join him within the Akatsuki. Right, so that never would have taken place. Minato would have been around. He would have negated all those events from transpiring. The Uchiha massacre doesn't take place. Naruto doesn't have a hellish childhood. And Sasuke grows up with Itachi. So, continuing on. Minato would be around to deal with the Akatsuki. And with his intelligence and abilities, he would become aware of the Akatsuki's formation. And would most likely dispose of it before it becomes the powerhouse that we know of in the original storyline. Right, he would have stopped it from even getting to that point. He would have disposed of Obito and disposed of anyone else who joined and had the same intentions as Obito. We can rationally deduce that as well. Alright, so continuing on here. Let's see. So furthermore, when Konoha becomes aware of Orochimaru's malevolence, like in the original storyline when Hiruzen caught him doing experimentation, Minato, being much more cutthroat and not being emotionally appealed to Orochimaru, would not let Orochimaru escape, and he would have killed Orochimaru right there and then. So Orochimaru's threat to Konoha would have never been there, because Minato would have killed him as soon as he saw him, acting out his malevolent plans. He would have just slit his throat. Hiruzen had a soft spot for him, right? He didn't have the guts to take out Orochimaru like he should have probably. Minato would have killed him. So that would have been the end of Orochimaru. So simply put, many of the main antagonists that Naruto and Sasuke dealt with in the original storyline would be disposed of and or much less of a threat than they were in the original storyline, with Minato's presence as well as Itachi's being a big deterrent to antagonists and would result in a lot of antagonists being defeated and killed. Right, Orochimaru, the Akatsuki, Obito, all these threats would be neutralized by Minato, and later on Itachi would join in. Right, so clearly the storyline would have been altered greatly. All right, the very storyline of Naruto would have greatly altered, and it would have been much more peaches and cream. I might as well say, right? It would, the whole world of the Shinobi world would be much more peaches and cream in comparison to the original storyline. Without Minato, you lose that sense of security, right? Hiruzen is a Hokage and all that, but with Minato there was more of a sense of security. There was more guaranteed security with him being alive and in his prime, and arguably being the strongest shinobi on Earth. With him dying, Konoha was more of a target, right? Hiruzen was getting old, Orochimaru departed, and Itachi left the Leaf as well, one of the strongest shinobi as well, because of the Uchiha massacre. So there was more of a target, and there was more vulnerability within Konoha because of Minato's death, etc., like I just said. So that's how things would change. Alright, so continuing on to the next question, folks. Give me a second. And feel free to ask any questions, folks, you may have. Any and all questions are welcomed. Give me a second here, folks. Alright, so continuing on to the next question here. Just checking something real quick while I do that. Feel free to ask any questions while I take care of this. Alright, continuing on. The next question was, if Sasuke had a different elemental nature, would he lose to Deidara? And if so, wouldn't that mean Deidara scales above Sasuke? This is a very good question, actually. It's a very good question. So this is what I would say about what would happen if Sasuke didn't have lightning style, right, as his elemental nature. Considering Sasuke had the majority of success against Deidara due to his elemental nature, which is lightning, and also considering he still barely escaped with his life, this leads me to rationally deduce that without the elemental nature advantage, Sasuke would have died from the microscopic clay bombs, as the Achilles heel to those was the lightning style that Sasuke possessed. Right? The reason he was able to overcome the microscopic clay bombs entering his bloodstream was because he was able to use his lightning style attacks to neutralize the bombs within his own body. Without that, he would have no deterrent for it, and he would have been defeated by Deidara with those microscopic bombs. So despite having the clear speed advantage, which Sasuke did, and Deidara admitted several times that Sasuke is quicker, without the elemental nature advantage, Sasuke would have failed to defeat Deidara. The hacks would have been too much for him, and it is almost guaranteed that the microscopic bombs would have entered his bloodstream and it would have killed him. So simply put, he probably would have lost, more than likely, to Deidara, and yeah, he probably would scale below Deidara because of that. Sometimes styles make fights, right? Sometimes styles make fights, and Sasuke happened to have the perfect style to combat Deidara, on top of the speed advantage that he had. So that was a perfect storm for him to defeat Deidara, and he still barely survived. Within an inch of his life, right? He almost died at the hand of Deidara. So he would have lost that day. So continuing on, though, to the next question. Again, folks, feel free to ask any questions here. Any and all questions are welcomed. Happy holidays. Appreciate it, Sean. Thanks for coming in, brother. And I just realized that I was on the wrong chat. My bad, guys. I didn't even see them till now. I found new respect for Deidara. My bad, folks. I just saw this chat now. I don't know what happened. It had me in some other chat. Also, would Minato be politically able to stop the Uchiha? Would Minato allow the coup? He wouldn't allow the coup to happen. He would shut that shit down. He'd probably tell Danzo to back the fuck up. So, I think he would have made peace with the Uchiha. He's not as, I would say, tyrannical or as much as a dictator as Danzo was, right? Why didn't Itachi just use Shishui's MS ability in his own father to mitigate the coup, or even Danzo for that matter? That's one of the questions that we always ask ourselves, right? If Shishui's Kodomatsu Kame was this potent, why didn't he use it to negate the possibility of the massacre, right? My answer to that would be, it probably wouldn't have solved the problems that they were having. If he would have manipulated Danzo, Hiruzen would definitely take notice, and he'd be able to deduce that someone has a Kodo, vice versa, and the indication of that would be hard to deduce. So it's a risk, especially if he does it on a Konoha bureaucrat, because if he does, automatically the higher ups are going to assume that someone has Shishui's Kodo, and they're going to take that as a direct attack to the Leaf, and vice versa. The Uchiha would easily rationally deduce that a clear change in ideology is because of a Genjutsu. So, all right, what's going on, Momo? MUI Goku versus UE Vegeta and Super Saiyan Broly equal stats. Who you got? I feel like Goku overall has the best martial arts out of all three of those guys. Broly is extremely green, and he's a novice when it comes to battling. Yes, he has blatant power and the most latent potential out of everyone amongst those three, but Goku, I believe, is a more polished fighter as far as martial arts alone. So I would say him. Lightning release was his key to success against the microscope's bombs. Yep. But the Sharingan would still see the bombs, and the summoning don't forget the Manda. That doesn't matter because despite him being able to see them entering his bloodstream would be the end of it. He can't escape it. It would eat him from the inside out, like Datara explained. The reason that he did escape was because of the lightning style. Yeah, he would still be able to see the bombs, but they would enter his bloodstream the same way he did in the fight, where Datara tricked him and it would have killed him. The only reason he survived was because of the lightning blade that he stabbed himself with to defuse the bombs. Alright, so continue on to the next question, folks. Again, any donations or member-only questions are prioritized. So think about becoming a member or donate. Any donations appreciated as well. So I'll answer one of these and get back to the chat. Again, hit the like button if you haven't already, folks. It gets us higher in the algorithm. So make sure to hit the like button. And by the way, I'm using the soundboard on my phone now because it's too unreliable on the computer. Alright, so someone asked Hokage Minato versus KCM1 Naruto. Now, this is a very interesting question. Clearly, there's ambiguity embedded in it, and clearly it is quite contentious to consider. So this is my take on it. Firstly, the specific version of KCM1 Naruto we are considering would greatly alter the conclusion to this matchup. Right? Clearly, KCM1 adult Naruto would dominate Hokage Minato casually. We can all agree with that. But let's discuss the most contentious matchup, which is the newly awakened KCM Naruto during the war arc versus Hokage Minato. That's the most contentious and discussed about topic, right? Now, clearly, we all naturally compare both speed feats against the Raikage. Naturally, we're going to gravitate towards that because that's one of the best ways to compare them. Inductively, it is easier to conclude that the fourth had killer intent against Minato, while the fourth admits he was just testing Naruto. Verbatim, he said this was just a test. Right? So we can rationally induce that there is a probability that his speed to some arbitrary level was slower than the speed he used against Jonin Minato, because there he had killer intent. It was during wartime, tensions were high, and he went at him with all he got, and he failed. Right? So, simply put, this allows us to establish some arbitrary gap in speed between KCM1 Naruto and Hokage Minato to further reinforce my premise, because it's not 100% foolproof, right? That's conjecture and headcanon. I'll agree with that. There is definitely another argument, which is that shinobi, as they evolve, they become stronger, more competent, more capable, and clearly Jonin Minato, as a result of that, we can safely rationally deduce that Hokage Minato would be stronger in comparison to Jonin Minato, because the Minato that the Hokage is familiar with was Jonin Minato, right? We all know that. That's the one that casually dodged his fastest speed. Now, if we're talking about Hokage Minato, we can almost concretely, rationally deduce that he's gotten stronger, faster, more capable, etc. Right, so we can establish some sort of gap between early war arc KCM1 Naruto and Hokage Minato as a result of that. I think it's a very safe deduction to make. Alright, so continuing on. Hence, Minato is more likely faster than when he was when facing the Raikage. Therefore, I would predict that Hokage Minato would be faster than early war arc KCM1 Naruto, with his most probable win con actually being able to get to Naruto in time and further reinforcing the seal that he put on Naruto, because that might theoretically undo the KCM itself, and at that point Naruto's at Minato's mercy. There is no relativity whatsoever if he's not using KCM in terms of speed. Alright, so him being the catalyst of the seal, the nine-tailed seal that's on Naruto's stomach, he could just theoretically make it tighter and maybe break the bond and connection between Kurama and Naruto, theoretically. So hence, I would take Hokage Minato over early KCM1 Naruto. I would. Empirically, there's more for him, and I believe there are better rational deductions to make for his side. So, how do you think Sasori exactly killed the third? Though pure overpowering him through assassination via poison, most likely holding the third for ransom for the sake of the village. That's a good question. The way he boasts about it, I mean, this is all headcanon. He seems to have triumphed over him in battle, straight up. I think he just overpowered him and beat him fair and square. Even though it's my own prediction. But that's what I think, based off how he explains it, based off how he boasts about him having the third Kazekage as a puppet. So, Alexa, I see that you're here as well. What's going on, Levi? Thanks for coming in, brother. What's going on, Phantom Redberry? Thanks for coming in as well. Jonin Minato was compared to KCM1 Raikage due to the relative feats. KCM2 Naruto was compared to Hokage Minato Kakashi. Top of the Minato has intellect and flying rising. Yeah, Hokage Minato, there's just more for him going empirically. in comparison to KCM1 early War Arc Naruto. I agree. So, all right. So as you guys ask more questions through donations or members, I'll continue to answer these. So someone asked me Part 1 Orochimaru versus Part 1 Jiraiya. I've been asked this many times. I've thought about this many times. And this is my take on it. Although the Sannin are implied to be relative, I lean towards Orochimaru empirically. Here's why. A sick Orochimaru had more success against a stronger foretell Naruto, because keep in consideration, as time goes on, the seal that Minato put on Naruto weakens. Right, so again, a sick Orochimaru had more success against a stronger foretell Naruto when comparing Jiraiya's performance against a weaker, younger foretell Naruto, who almost killed Jiraiya. Right, so a perfectly healthy Jiraiya nearly died at the hands of a younger, weaker foretell Naruto. Orochimaru, on his deathbed damn near, competed with a stronger foretell Naruto. That is very impressive, and that allows us to safely rationally deduce some sort of gap between Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Yes, someone can counter me and say that was Jiraiya off guard, etc. But the fact that Orochimaru was sick and still had this much success is very telling. Now, I wouldn't go out so far as to say that Orochimaru stomps Jiraiya. I don't think that's the case, because again, Jiraiya was caught off guard. But the fact that Orochimaru was this sick and still competed with a stronger foretells Naruto allows us to imply quite some things. Oh shit, shout out to Sean for the donation, brother. I appreciate that. This deserves a... Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you, brother. You can argue Jiraiya didn't use Sage Mode against Naruto and was just getting bodied in base. But despite that, Orochimaru wasn't using his Hydra form, which would be the equivalent of Jiraiya's Sage Mode as far as their greatest ability, and Orochimaru was sick. So, but as you guys know, I'm going to put this on the screen. Appreciate it, brother, for the donation. Give me a second. Give me a second, folks, while I put this on the screen. Give me a quick sec. Gotta give credit where credit's due. That's the way it works. Give me a second, folks. And I shall continue. There you go. Appreciate that, brother. Once again. Do you think Jiraiya was in Sage Mode or not when he faced Foretells Naruto? Also, what if Part 1 Jiraiya faced the Konoha Crush or Orochimaru? Yeah, but what makes this and allows us to get somewhat of a gap between the two is the fact that Orochimaru is sick. You know, he's damn near on death's door, and he has more success than base Jiraiya did against Foretell Naruto, a weaker, younger Foretell Naruto, I might add. So, the point is, that is a valid argument to use. And I lean towards Orochimaru, so. Also, Jiraiya is predicted to have been surpassed by Naruto when he gained Sage Mode, and Sasuke didn't surpass Orochimaru, at least until he got EMS, according to Soigetsu in the narrative. So that also kind of established a gap between the two, even more so. So, all right. Absolutely, I agree, no doubt. It's more likely he wasn't in Sage Mode. Yeah, I don't think he was in Sage Mode. I agree with that. I don't think he was. Orochimaru just has a better combo ability than Jiraiya, but I do believe Jiraiya would have done better against Foretells Naruto, even in base if he tried. I mean, he certainly tried. I mean, he almost died, so he had to try. So Sage Mode Jiraiya could probably take Foretell Naruto. That's fair. Definitely the younger one he faced. That's for sure. Yeah, Orochimaru has weird scaling, right? They're implying that EMS Sasuke barely surpassed Orochimaru. That's quite bizarre. You know, and Jiraiya is surpassed by Sage Mode Naruto. So that's a strange scaling to me. You know, I get the thematic aspect. They want to, you know, show the milestones where their mentors are surpassed, but logically it doesn't seem very consistent. If the Sannin are relative, then how come Sasuke had to get EMS to surpass Orochimaru, but Naruto just needed Sage Mode to surpass Jiraiya? You know, it doesn't seem consistent if we're gonna consider the Sannin relative. But that's what we got. So, all right, folks, continuing on as you guys ask more and more questions. Make sure to hit the like button if you haven't already. And appreciate the donation once again, Sean. Appreciate that, brother. Continuing on. Someone asked who is better at utilizing Senjutsu Chakra, Orochimaru or Jiraiya. Well, fun fact, is there two primary reasons why Orochimaru can't use authentic Senjutsu. One, the Snake Sage denied him due to his malevolence and his malevolent ideology, so he didn't allow him to access it. And two, when Orochimaru switched bodies, the body that he's now in rendered him useless in using Senjutsu anyway. So, in a way, this Hydra form that he has, that he used against Itachi, is what I would call a pseudo Sage mode, right? Somewhat of a like, synthetic replication of Sage mode, I'd say. So, let's see. Sage mode is a busted amp in terms of an addition multiplier. That's the truth. What's going on, Luis? Thanks for coming in, brother. Yeah, Sage mode is quite the amp, for sure. And with Sage mode, Jiraiya probably wouldn't have gotten as mortally wounded as he did against the Four-Tail Naruto. So. Curse Mark is bootleg Sage mode. Yeah, like I said, it's like a synthetic replication of Senjutsu. That's what Orochimaru did with the whole Curse Mark thing. It's a synthetic replication, and isn't as efficient, I would say, as organic, like bona fide Senjutsu. So, continuing on. Someone asked, who's more intelligent, Kakashi or Orochimaru? I would say Orochimaru is more ambitious when it comes to knowledge and evolution. So overall, I would lean towards Orochimaru in terms of intelligence. Maybe if Kakashi had the same sort of goals and ambitions, maybe he could be smarter. But as far as intelligence, overall, I would just go with Orochimaru. Sage Mode Minato versus White Mask Obito. White Mask Obito. He wins that one. White Mask Obito could compete simultaneously with KCM2, Guy, and Kakashi. So, also, for Orochimaru is literally sealed into the world of drunken dreams by Itachi. How is he able to be summoned via Curse Mark? Yeah, more inconsistencies for sure. Like, how was Minato revived if he sealed himself with the Reaper Death Seal? Alright, continuing on. Stage mode, Minato maybe still loses to White Mask Obito. Yeah, he does. Yep. Minato is greater than all Obito before Rinnegan? Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I agree with that. KCM2 Minato? Yeah, he slaps White Mask for sure. But base? No. Itachi kind of slaps Sage Mode Naruto? I agree. Itachi scales somewhere in between the range of KCM1 and KCM2. So certainly above Sage Mode. Alright, continuing on. Someone asked a hypothetical KCM1 Naruto versus with Sage Mode versus Prime Itachi. Okay, so hypothetical KCM1 Naruto with Sage Mode versus Prime Itachi. That's a good question because it's kind of hard to quantify how strong that exact version of Naruto would be at that point. He clearly isn't as strong as he was against Jubito, right, when he was able to at least somewhat threaten Jubito with his Senjutsu attacks. So, simply put, KC1 Naruto on top of the Sage Mode could possibly have a chance against Prime Itachi. Prime Itachi definitely scales above early war KCM1 Naruto based off the scaling in comparison to Nagato, in terms of speed at least. So I would lean towards, the Sage Mode is quite the amp. I might give the benefit of the doubt to Naruto. It's hard to quantify the exact amp, but I might lean towards Naruto. If he's using KCM1 and Sage Mode, I might lean towards him. Honestly, doubt Minato was good with Sage Mode anyways. Yeah, and empirically that holds, right? Because in the biggest fights of his life, he never used Sage Mode. Against Yellow Mask Obito, he didn't even think of using it. Even though it would amp his reaction times, theoretically, he'd said in his own mind, clearly that wasn't the best option. Or the best course of action, right, to use Sage Mode. He'd rather just depend on his own natural reaction speed. So, I don't think he was the best Sage Mode user. That's right, yeah. That's how Minato was summoned. EMS Sasuke versus Sage Mode Jiraiya. EMS Sasuke. For sure. Why do you think people actually believe Itachi can beat Jubito or Madara? It's due to their own ingrained emotional bias. Definitely they're appealing to their own emotions due to their reverement of Itachi, and because their subjective lens looks at Itachi at a higher level that is not the actual level that Itachi's at. Jubito scales above Hashirama. There's no way Itachi beats that. Madara is equivalent or damn near equivalent to Madara. To Hashirama. So Itachi certainly doesn't beat Jubito or Madara. That's definitely not the case. Let's see. Who's a better written character, Itachi or Madara? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I might lean towards Itachi just because there's a little bit more on him canonically. So I'd probably lean to, as far as who's better written, probably Itachi. Even though Madara's very well written too for the inferior amount of investment in comparison to Itachi's character. He's still very well written. So I was saying Minato was above all version of Obito before White Mask. I agree with that. Yeah, he probably is. The most contentious would be Orange Mask Obito versus Minato, but I still lean towards Minato. Tsunade and Minato versus Yellow Mask Obito. I mean, Minato already beat him, so with Tsunade it would just be easier, I guess. Or if anything, Yellow Mask Obito would just calmly Tsunade, and it would be Minato and Obito alone anyway. Tsunade's slower than those two. Alright. Prime Alive Hashirama after Final Valley against Shinobi Alliance, no Sasuke. So I'm assuming you mean no Naruto either. If there's no Naruto, he's fucking wrecking their shit just like Madara did. They're not standing a chance without Sasuke and Naruto. If Naruto's present, it depends on what Naruto discussing. If it's KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto, the one that fought towards the end of the Jubito fight, then they might beat Hashirama. It's possible, especially if he amps the entire alliance like he did in the original storyline. But if it's a weaker KCM Naruto, then Hashirama smashes all of them. So people think he was good with Sage Mode because he has a perfect Sage, but it could only hold up for like 2 seconds, which I think Minato's referring to when he says he's shit with it. Yeah, he's not the best at it, and he says it himself, not very good with it. And empirically that holds because he never uses it in the biggest fights. Why didn't he use it against the Raikage or against Yellow Mask Obito, during the war? I mean, we can't prove that he didn't use it during the Third Great Ninja War, but in the biggest fights of his life, he doesn't use it. So, all right. Next question that was asked pre-live stream. I mean, you guys keep asking questions while I do that. How fast is Itachi? Prime Itachi is somewhere in the range of KCM1, KCM2, based off his performance against Edo Nagato, indicating yes, his speed could theoretically be comparable to Minato, although I don't tend to align with that. It's pretty contentious. I mean, he did do better than KCM1 Naruto, whose speed was compared by the Raikage to Minato. So theoretically, his speed can be comparable to even Hokage Minato if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt. It's tough to assess, but it's not outlandish to say. So, all right. Why didn't the Namikaze clan ever get more development behind them? An unknown clan that produces one of the greatest. That is a good point, right? The Namikaze produced Minato. Minato was arguably the top shinobi on Earth during his time. So that is kind of bizarre. Same thing with the Uzumaki. There really is no development with them. Yeah, we have a couple of famous people like Nagato and Naruto, but there isn't much on them either. The Senju and the Uchiha were like the chosen clans, if you kind of imply what Kishimoto's intentions were, right? They were the chosen clans since the beginning of time that warred with each other, the two most dominant clans on Earth, so it would have been nice to see more focus on other clans, though, for sure. KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto versus Blind Sage Madara. Well, that's a tough one. Hashirama kind of implies that Madara is approaching his past powers when he's blind, I believe. He's approaching his past powers, so he's not even at the level he once was during his prime. I might lean towards KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto because he did have some success against Jubito. But you can counter me and say that Jubito's power is always fluctuating, which is fair. But I lean towards Sage Mode Naruto. KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto. So it's a good fight, though. It's a good fight. 'Cause it's hard to quantify where he's at in comparison to Madara and Hashirama. So I love Minato as Namikaze. Yeah. Jiraiya gets one shot by Susanoo or Amaterasu Blitz. This is a horrific matchup, I agree. OP and intelligence as hell, even though his fame name is unknown as hell. Exactly. I think Minato's personality plays a part in him saying he's bad at Sage Mode, but he is still a perfect Sage. That's contentious, but you can go with that. Yeah, he used against Jubidara, who's kind of a hard gauge. Well, the thing is, you can make the argument that because he's an Edo, all those decisions he makes are different in comparison to when he was alive, because in the biggest fights of his life when he was alive, he never used it. Right? But again, it's ambiguous. It's ambiguous. What's going on, Dragon? Thanks for coming in. Merry Christmas as well. All right, so the next question I was asked This is another what if question. There's a lot of those today. If Tsunade swapped with Jiraiya as Naruto's teacher, what would happen? I honestly think his development wouldn't be as successful since Tsunade's strengths don't coincide with Naruto's very well. Right? Tsunade is a short-range combatant with medical ninjutsu, and Jiraiya is a more well-rounded fighter with various tools under his belt, similar to Naruto, especially Naruto later on. So I would say his development would go much different and would be hampered by him not having a teacher like Jiraiya. So that's what I would predict. What would you assume Fugaku's MS ability is? Hard to say. It's hard to say because there's so many unique ones. Maybe because I would use rationale and say that maybe because he's Itachi's father, which indicates that he has some sort of similar MS ability to Itachi somehow. Maybe that's some sort of rationale you could use, some sort of rationale. It's tough to say. Maybe he has his own unique genjutsu or something like that. Let's see. Minato says Sage Mode only lasts for one. That's why he never uses it. Yeah. Alright. Who are you rooting for to have manga on? Minato. I voted Minato for sure. And I'm glad he's number one in the polls right now. Very glad about that. If Madara wins the manga pool, I want Kishi to write that. What his Mangekyo ability is. Alright, continuing on. I read one of these and I'll continue with your guys'. Feel free to keep asking questions. What if the Leaf had the 7 swordsmen of the mist? Well, simply put, they would further add to their dominance amongst the shinobi world if they had the 7 swordsmen. Alright, give me a second here, folks. Alright, someone asked, do you think Madara was ever aware of Indra's presence in himself? Madara seems very well read on the history of shinobi, so I would say yes. I wouldn't be surprised. Do you prefer deductive, inductive, or abductive reasoning? It's a good question. Now, I believe the most concrete one out of those three is deductive, because deduction requires, a pre-established set of data from which you can deduce things from, right? Induction is more so making a sort of claim based off limited evidence, right? Deduction is more concrete and I would say more secure as far as logic is concerned. Induction and abduction works, but both only require an incomplete set of data, right? Data that is different from the data you're currently talking about, etc. Deduction, one of the prerequisites of deduction is heavy data, heavy empirical evidence, etc., for you to create your claim. So I would say deduction is the best one. Sometimes you got to use the other two because there just isn't much empirical evidence for it, right? Especially in fictional-based reality where there's ambiguity, you might be forced to make an inductive or abductive deduction. Sometimes you don't have a choice, right? Especially in contentious aspects or contentious matchups, like Itachi versus Pain, for example. There's going to be induction and probably abduction as well. There isn't much deduction to be had because there isn't much on these guys as far as comparing the two, right? So Minato better win that poll. I agree. I'm happy as long as Itachi or Naruto don't win. Yeah, I don't get the point of even having Naruto and Sasuke on there. They're the main characters. Why the hell are they even on the poll? There's the entire 700 chapter manga written on them. So I hope they don't win either. In Itachi too, there's quite a bit on Itachi already. So I agree with that as well. I would want someone else besides him to win. So, alright. What if Chojuro and Mei actually killed Black Zetsu during the early war instead of him escaping underground? Well, simply put, Madara probably would have won, theoretically, unless Three-Eyed Madara is inferior to Naruto and Sasuke and they somehow theoretically seal him like they did Kage and undo the Infinite Tsukuyomi, but simply put, there's a good chance that Madara would have won. So, Minato's the GOAT, exactly. He literally is. Alright, I'm glad Minato is leading too. Yep. Alright, Naruto and Sasuke better not win the poll. Exactly. Popularity poll, just decides everything on the side. Yeah, Naruto and Sasuke are inevitably extremely popular, being the main characters with the most character development as a result of that. So, of course, they're going to have a lot of votes. So, all right, continuing on with the questions here. Someone asked, what if Kabuto hid with his army until after Obito was defeated and then attacked with his army of Edo Tensei and Madara? Madara would still break out, and Itachi would still find him. That wouldn't change anything. And if, in a way, he was kind of hiding anyway in that cave, but Itachi found him. So he would have been found, nonetheless, and disposed of. So, what if Ramen Guy wins? Shit. If he wins, we better get something special. You know, learn the real power scaling of Ramen Guy. So, Hashirama is implied to die of chakra illness due to healing over time. Tsunade says it shortens your life and he's best healer. That's a good theory. It's definitely a valid theory. Definitely a theory of how his death could have taken place and why it took place. Ramen Guy's daughter, though? Sheesh, and Boruto? Yeah, for sure. Alright, so the next question is Dragon Ball. So this is a question I can only give a hypothesis on because it's very current. Ultimate Piccolo versus Gohan, right? This is tough because it's very ambiguous as to where they scale. This is even before their final forms in the superhero movie. But based on a narrative, despite the little bullying that Piccolo, conducts on Gohan, I would still see Gohan in serious mode beating Ultimate Piccolo. Piccolo tries to get him up again for another fight, so to speak. Right? Something to get him out of bed. And he does bully Gohan a little bit. But I think if Gohan got serious, right, and he looked, let's say in some theoretical world, hypothetical world, he looks like Piccolo as a threat, I do think he'd beat him. So, it's all hypothetical, but yeah. See, I like Minato too because we see very little of him and he doesn't have a popular clan to rep. Exactly. There's a lot of pre-established conditions that make a Minato short manga very, very desired. Itachi, Naruto, and Sasuke, what else do we need to know? But Minato has this like insane lore and admiration amongst the fandom, and there's a lot of mystery behind the guy. There's a lot of mystery. So he's one of the perfect candidates to have a short manga written on, for sure. What do you think of Kakuzu saying he fought Hashirama? Did he just throw kunai and then substitution out? If I'm not mistaken, there's a canonical piece of literature that indicates that Hashirama spared him. The only reason he lived was because he spared him out of pity and mercy. So he didn't fight Hashirama. He survived in exchange with him because Hashirama allowed it. He doesn't scale anywhere near Hashirama. So Ramen Guy versus Ishiki. Ramen Guy is omnipotent, and he's the reason why Naruto developed the way he did. Hence, he wins. Piccolo is just stated to be relative to Goku and Vegeta by Toriyama or something. Yeah, I believe so. Specifically, I believe he said he caught up to Goku and company, implying relativity. Yeah. And Gohan's, especially in Gohan Beast form, he is suggested to have surpassed Goku and Vegeta. Right, so anyone here want a remastered version of Naruto? That would be cool, I suppose. Do you think high intelligence could be considered a mental disability or illness? I don't know about disability or illness being the right word of choice. But I see what you're saying by that, because those who are extremely intelligent inevitably ostracize themselves from the normal level of intelligence, right? From a normal individual, they ostracize themselves because they're so much more advanced and they see things more logically, resulting in less emotion involved, right? Which humans are inherently emotional. So they're more machine-like because they're so intelligent. But I don't know if disability or illness is the right word. Maybe a mental significant difference would be the right word, or set of words to explain and kind of paint what a highly intelligent being is like amongst the normal masses, right? So I would say a highly intelligent being or human should be considered someone that is just significantly mentally different, I would say. There's just a big difference. They're definitely not disabled or ill, right? Because that would imply inferiority. There's only superiority when thinking of a highly intelligent being, right? So highly superior that they can't relate to the normal human being. They are so vastly advanced that the only outcome is becoming an outcast, becoming ostracized to the masses, right? You're looked at differently. So, simply put, I would say the right set of words would be a significantly mentally different person along those lines. Just a thought or idea. Try scaling Kushina. She was able to contain the entire Nine Tails in its entirety, something Minato couldn't even do. So her chakra reserves are preposterous, clearly, because she's an Uzumaki. As far as scaling her, she's feetless, right? So there's that. However, considering she was a Jinchuriki with the entire Nine Tails inside of her, theoretically, with the right catalyst, maybe she could reach new heights if she goes on a Nine Tails rampage or something like that. So she would scale it very high at that point. Top tier. What if social media didn't exist? Networking would be vastly different. It'd be the same way it was centuries ago, right? Mail would take days to reach. If we presuppose that cars still do exist and airplanes still exist, mail will take days to reach. It wouldn't be instantaneous through the likes of things such as email, because there's no social media or internet. Now, if you just mean if social media itself didn't exist, then many things about modern Western civilization would change. So let's presuppose there is internet but no social media. I think more people would be open to in-person interaction. Social media decentivizes the desire to interact socially face-to-face, right? That's why there are so many incels. That's why there are so many people that live in their own little bubble. There's more subjectivity than ever, right? Objectivity seems to be dying, right? Which is why I have this caption on this live stream, right? Imagine thinking truth and fact is subjective. That's what's happening with social media. Social media has expanded the individual echo chambers of ideologies, right? And unfortunately, there are some dangerous ideologies with very large and loud echo chambers, right? Woke media, certain parts of the political spectrum with absurd ideologies, postmodernism spreading like wildfire throughout social media, especially amongst the youth. So it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. And social media not existing would negate a lot of that. It would negate a lot of that, right? So there are definitely detrimental effects to it, right? People wouldn't be able to meet the way they do, like such as here, for example. Some of the most talented people would never be discovered because there isn't an easy access to information or anything really without social media. So good things would happen, bad things would happen, and society would be greatly different. So I was thinking the Gohan. Sorry, I had to scroll to read that one. I was thinking the Gohan who went toe-to-toe with Blue Goku against Ultimate Piccolo. Again, super ambiguous, though. Oh, that Gohan. Okay. That Gohan was not rusty. He was training. So there's that. Piccolo seems to imply that he's kind of decreased in ability and that he needs to get up again and shake the rust off. All right, but him having his latent potential, it only took one fight to do so. So if we're assuming he's lackluster and mellow, that Blue Goku, that Gohan that fought Blue Goku may be stronger than early superhero Gohan. It's very rare if you give the benefit of the doubt that the rustiness has decreased him to that extent. And at that point, maybe Ultimate Piccolo would have a tougher time with that Gohan in comparison to the early superhero Gohan. Again, that's only a rational argument. It's not concrete, but narratively, it seems to be really implied that Gohan is rusty. So. Alright, so Hokage has a new video on the best manga kill. Oh, I just saw that. Yeah, I'm about to react to that very soon. Jiraiya was akin to him back when he was young. He was the best choice to teach him, not to mention... Exactly, yeah. That's why Jiraiya is a better teacher than Tsunade. Would you rather know the cause of your death or the date of your death? I just saw that actually on... Shout out to RDC World. They did it back and forth, and I think they were asked this question. Would you rather know the cause of your death or the date of your death? That's a good question. Because if I know the date, then it's almost inevitable that I'll simply mope through my last days. If I know the cause, though, I'll be hyper vigilant of the specific cause and what specific factors are involved for that cause to take place. For example, if I die in a car accident, I would inevitably avoid cars as much as possible. I'd fucking bike everywhere. I would never use a fucking car, right? But I would be... The only thing about that is I would still die either way from that cause, right? So both inevitably result in you living with fear and looking over your shoulder all the time, hypervigilant, etc. But personally, I think I'd rather know the date. That way I know when and where it's done. You know, when and where it's done. And if we presuppose I can't alter it if I change, you know, the direction of my actions and decisions, then just wait out the clock. You know, because if it's only the cause, I'm gonna be even more hyper vigilant. I don't know when, I don't know where, I don't know who. All right, but if I know the date, there's more closure there in comparison. So I'd rather know the date. If it's a month, if it's a year, you know, at least I know when. And I know all the days prior to that will be me living at least another day. So, did Shikamaru not get ostracized for his high intelligence? Was it because of his laziness or his range of being controlled? Well, there are relative levels of intelligence, right? Shikamaru is very relatable. He has the low ambition, especially early on in Naruto. Yes, he has a very high IQ, but he has relatable factors. In the real world, highly intelligent people don't really have that relatability for the most part. Someone like Elon Musk, he's a little socially awkward, right? Despite his extremely high IQ. Someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson, sometimes you can't even keep up with what the hell he's saying. He's so vastly superior in intelligence. Someone like Stephen Hawking, or those guys, those levels of intelligence ostracize you because you're less relatable. You know, life is just different for you. Who'd be the baddest among the Naruto mothers? The baddest mom, for me, it's a tough one. Let's see all the mothers out there. Maybe my personal favorite, because it's preference, probably Hinata. Probably Hinata. She has the intangible traits and the tangible traits. So, you know, Boruto mother, Hinata probably takes the win there for me. How strong do you think Yagura is? Yagura, I believe. I haven't thought of her in quite some time. Alright, the Jinchuriki and the fourth Mizukage. How strong is this individual? From what I remember and from what I can extrapolate, clearly scales below Obito, right? Because Yagura was manipulated by Obito for years, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So clearly below that. Gave, in a filler, I mean, this is filler, gave Itachi a tough time, but I can't really use that as it is filler. Yagura does have his feat as a Edo against Casey-One Naruto. Maybe I guess that's kind of impressive, but I would counter and say that was more so because of the hacks ability. I would say highballing Yagura, mid-tier Katsuki level. Highballing Yagura. That's how powerful I'd say Yagura is. Mid-tier Katsuki level. If I had to put my finger on it. What does it tell you if a girl you talking to leaves her personal stuff in your car? It implies that she has a sense of security with you. That's a positive. If they trust you with their belongings, with themselves, etc., then there's a level of security and a level of, what's the right word, of calamity that they have when they're around you. That's definitely positive. It's definitely positive. All right, so if that happens, you're going in the right direction with whatever female you're dealing with. All right, that's one of the prerequisites every female has for men is they have to trust you. If they don't trust you, it's not going to work. You know, respect, trust, etc. are just some of the factors that play a role in, you know, the dating marketplace. So, better written manga, Naruto versus DBZ. Thematically, I would go with Naruto, but DBZ's right there, man. I feel like DBZ's thematic aspects are more hidden, right, because of the constant aesthetic appeal that we get. Constantly seeing aesthetically pleasing things in comparison to Naruto, but I think it's underrated. But I would say Naruto slightly takes it. Would you never see another episode of anime again, or never play video games again? Currently, with my trajectory, I would never play video games again. You know, I don't play them that often anyway, so things wouldn't really change for me personally. So I would go with never playing video games. It would suck though. I love video games, but anime, I'm a bigger fan of. Who's the baddest Naruto mother? The worst mother, you mean? The worst mother. Who would be the worst mom? That's a good question. Maybe, let's see here. The worst mother. I Can't say Kushina because she died at the hands of the Nine-Tails. It's not really her fault. She was fucking threatened by Obito, so I can't say she's a bad mother. Let's see. It's hard. That's a hard one to put my finger on. Maybe some theoretical mother in the Mist Village, Zabuza's mother. Look what happened to him. You know, the culture of the Mist Village is different, especially when it was known as the Blood Mist Village. The culture was horrible. There were probably a lot of horrible parents that were instilling this radical ideology into these young shinobi. You know, telling them you have to kill your peers to become respected. Like, that's dangerous. So maybe some hypothetical Mist Village mother out there somewhere. In terms of how hot they are, Sakura honestly is a mother. She really grew her beauty. I think Sakura just lacks the tangible traits. You know, Ino has better tangible traits. Hinata has better tangible traits, if you know what I mean. So Sakura's alright. So, do you think Hashirama is a bad leader for not letting the village be a true democracy? Every Hokage since himself have had an influence from the Senju clan. Yeah, and this goes back to the idea of ideology, right? Hashirama was for peace and prosperity, but there definitely wasn't a democracy, right? It's always been the elite bureaucrats and the Hokage himself or herself that make the choices. They seem to do care for what the people want, right? Especially someone like Naruto or Hashirama who are more cooperative and peaceful. But then what happens is you have people like Danzo, or you have people like Tobirama that are extremely, I would say, iron fist in their approach and damn near dictators because of the way they want things to be done and achieved, right? So that's the flaw with this sort of, I guess you could say, monarchy in a way, whatever you want to call it. Definitely not a democracy, you know. So I would say, is he a bad leader? Not necessarily, but he's not the best leader. He could have been better. You know, he could have been better because he set the standard, right, for the Konoha bureaucrats in the Konoha governmental structure, right? So in that aspect, his vision was a little flawed. Hashirama versus all Hokage, low-key solos. If we're excluding Naruto, of course, yes. If we're talking Naruto, Naruto alone would fold him and the rest of the Hokage, in his prime, of course. Chicken or steak? I like lean meats more. I think they're better for the digestive system, so I would go with chicken. Tuna or lamb? That's a tough one. I lean towards tuna. Tuna sandwich or meatball sub. Tuna sandwich, easy. She lacks adequate sexual dimorphism. Who's Sakura? Yeah, exactly. Let's see, so reading these questions here while you guys ask more. Shout out to you guys for the questions. Donations take priority, and become a member today if you want to have priority. I have a lot of member exclusive only videos there, much more uncensored, unfiltered, and you know, you see different things there. All right, so next question. So going back to the big news of Naruto, someone asked, who are the top 3 candidates for the new spin-off series to you? Me, number 1, Minato, for sure. The guy is arguably one of the most loved characters with damn near no character development. We get very, very little information on the guy, and we admire him quite largely amongst the Naruto fandom, rightfully so. So Minato, I think Sakuma would be great. I think that would be a very telling and emotionally appealing story. And my third pick's actually, I believe, a hot take because it's Kaguya. And here's why. I don't give a shit about her narrative. The power scaling and logical side of me wants it because we'd get a better understanding of where she scales, which transitively would allow us to scale other Otsutsuki. And, you know, things such as Universal Naruto and shit like that would finally be concluded. Is it bullshit? Is it true? Does Kaguya really make dimensions that are equivalent in size to Naruto's universe itself? I want to see those questions answered. I don't give a shit about her narrative. I don't. But again, if I'm talking about what would be best for most people, Minato or Sakuma. Obviously, for the power scaling community, Kaguya would be great because it would answer a lot of questions that are still being debated to this day. Right? So Naruto does have Hashirama cells in Boruto now with his new arm. That's true. That's another factor that would play a role into his current scaling, for sure. Yeah, you got them at the end of the final valley. Yep. Minato or Goku's dad? Who's the better father? They both had somewhat of a similar decision to make, right? Goku had to be sent away. Minato had to seal the Nine Tails inside of Naruto, and then died because he died protecting Minato. So they both have some parallels. As far as who's a better dad, I mean, the best rationale I could use is Minato was more present, even if it was within Naruto's subconscious. At least he was there. From my understanding, Goku's dad really isn't there much, at least in comparison to Minato. It's very close. They're both great dads. Neither one of them are bad, but yeah. If you're asking who wins in a fight, Goku's dad. So I think a show surrounding Kurama is also a wonderful take. That would be interesting. That would be an interesting, very interesting piece of canonical literature for sure. I think Hashirama would serve as a better healer, to be honest. Hashirama had all the tailed beasts as pets, after all, so I think he would probably do better in terms of regeneration, at least. Yeah, I agree. Bardock slaps, yeah. Zendaya or Selena Gomez? Who would you smash? That's a good question. Who would I rather smash? Huh. Currently, I would say Zendaya, I think. Zendaya. I would say Zendaya's a little bit more appealing to me these days than Selena Gomez. Selena Gomez is not ugly either, but I like Zendaya's style, I guess. What is the peak age for a woman? Well, if we're talking about biologically, it's going to be somewhere between the ages of 18 to 25. You know, they're the most fertile, they're the most malleable as far as ideology. So if you're a higher value man, you can mold their ideology to your fitting, and make a better women as a result of that. So somewhere between the ages of 18 and 25 is a woman's peak, right? So they're the easiest to deal with for the most part, unless you're dealing with thoughts in the club that have this bullshit feminine mindset and ideology. Then clearly it's not worth it. So somewhere between that range would work. Zendaya kind of overrated for me. I could see that. I could see her being overrated a little bit. I do see that. I feel like people hype her to the maximum of extent, and I'm like, she's not that bad. You know, she's bad, but she's not like fucking the baddest bitch on the planet. It's not the case. So I agree with that. Jazz styles like that, like button jutsu. Yeah. Not really a fan of the pull thing. What I always wanted was an anthology series. That would be interesting. An anthology series would give us more history on the Naruto Shinobi world in general, right? Which is interesting. Do you think if the Universe 7 Kaioshin and God of Destruction existed in the Naruto universe, would they see the Otsutsuki as an existential threat and an attempt to eliminate them? And could they? Now, if we're presupposing their power level is still the same in the Naruto verse, they would fucking fold every Otsutsuki, and the only one that might stand a chance currently, and even this is hypothetical, is the Otsutsuki god himself, Shibai, right? Beerus and Whis, and if we're talking about even above that, they fucking fold any Otsutsuki. They scale to universal minimum. They probably scale beyond that. In highballing Naruto to the max, I could get somewhere to galaxy level. If we're not talking about God Shibai himself. If we're talking about Shibai, that guy might be universal. We don't know anything about the guy yet. We just got, revealed that he exists in the first place. That's the only guy that might compete with someone of Beerus' caliber. But everyone else get fucked up. So, Sydney Sweeney or Alexa Demi? I'm not gonna lie, I forgot how those people looked. Let me see. Sydney Sweeney, who's this? Oh, from this one show. Okay. And then the other chick. If I'm not mistaken, that's the chick that plays the other chick in Euphoria, right? If I'm not mistaken. Let me check. I've watched Euphoria. It's pretty good, but I forgot the names of the people. I'm not gonna lie, the actors' names. Between those two, it's quite tough. They're both bad, very bad. I might lean towards Sydney. They're both really bad bitches, though. Sydney's a little bit more attractive to me personally, but they're both very attractive. Have you seen Wednesday? I've seen glimpses of it. I do want to see the rest of it. I watched a new show on Netflix called The Recruit. It was pretty fucking good. I think Wednesday's next on my list, besides the anime that I'm currently delving into. Ishiki versus Frieza. Namek, Form 1 through 4. It's a great one. Ishiki, if we highball him, beats arguably every version until Frieza's final form, right? If we get him to like Galaxy level or something like that, he probably would struggle with final form Frieza, right, for the Namek saga. If we lowball him, and he's like large star level at best, then maybe version 2 Frieza could take him, and final form Frieza would whip him. So Yeah, it depends on how you scale Ishiki. Anywhere from large star level to galaxy level if you really highball the guy. Depending on how you interpret Kaguya's expanded true second orb feat. Right, depending how you calculate the feat, the speed, etc. Probably Frieza first form wins mid diff. If you lowball Ishiki, it's possible, yeah. Ishiki might actually be 1, 2, 3 form of Frieza. Yes, Frieza is stronger than Ishiki, but he's a trash as a fighter. Just his shrinking ability would clap. Well, if he lacks the speed, speed is very contentious, right? Dragon Ball just naturally scales above in speed to Naruto, right? In terms of the fictional-based realities. So I lean towards Frieza. What if Piccolo beat Imperfect Cell? Shit, Cell Arc would not exist. The incentive to progress as far as Goku and Gohan did wouldn't be there, maybe, because Cell doesn't exist now. He was defeated. So a lot of things would change as far as the power scaling progression. Yeah, simply put, that's the best I would say about that. Do you think Buu, Saga, Shin, and Kibito could do it alone? Presupposing Beerus is asleep. Some of the Shins. What do you mean by could they do it alone? If you expand on that, maybe I could answer that. Oh, Namek, I'm dumb. I think Selena takes it from me, man. Selena's bad. Yeah. She's definitely thicker than Zendaya, so there's that advantage. New movie called Glass House out on Netflix. Pretty good film, but also serious. Yeah, Netflix has been dropping some W content, you know, W forms of media, for sure. Alright, folks. As you guys ask more questions there, I'll answer these. There's a few more here. Someone asked me an Attack on Titan question. So this is interesting. Someone asked, in Attack on Titan, what would happen if Annie sided with Eren against the rest of the Titan shifters after Season 3? That's a good question. It's a very good question. This is what I would say about that. With her aiding Eren, and her being as powerful as she is, right, with her diamond armor, there's a good chance that many of the battles Eren was in where he lost would have went in his favor with Annie's help, right? Such as the several battles against the Armored Titan, the Colossal Titan. With Annie there aiding him, he'd have a much better chance at victory. And furthermore, the radical ideology that he adopts at the end of the show might never be adopted, with much of the casualties that ensued being negated by Annie's aiding. So simply put, Eren might never do the Rumble, right? The all-famous Rumble that he does at the end of the anime, because the casualties, the trauma that he ensued and kind of endured, shaped and contorted his ideology into this more extreme and radical form of justice and cleansing, right? So he wouldn't really have that now, because he wouldn't have the, you know, as much incentive to change that drastically in ideology, because Annie's helping him. They win more battles, less casualties, things like that. Jessica Barden or Tiffany Thiessen? The girl that sang the duet with Shawn Mendes. She's hot as well. Oh, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. Admittedly, I'm not the best with actor names, but I'll look them up. What's this girl's name? Barden? Okay. Let me see who that is. Oh, I think I've seen this girl before. And who's the other one? Tiffany Thiessen. Let's see. There it is. There is that person. They're both kind of mid, but Tiffany seems a little bit more attractive. They seem older too. Well, especially Tiffany. I was referring to my Osusuki being a threat to the universe question from. Oh, okay, okay. So go back to your question. I believe it was up here. Give me a second, folks. Buu, Saga, Shin, and Kibito could do it alone. Could they? That's a good question. Again, it presupposes how you scale the Otsutsuki, highballing them. They might not be enough. Possibly. It might not be enough. If you lowball them, I do think they're more than enough. It really depends on how you presuppose the scaling of the Otsutsuki. Alright. 5 to 6. Damn, I was hoping higher. Oh, about Wednesday? Yeah, I'll check it out. You can see the twist coming. Okay. Have you heard of the group called Coaster Contra? I haven't, actually. Some of the best rappers. Yeah, I'll check that out. I'm always open to new music and different genres as well. I listen to all kinds of music besides the weird music like screamo and shit like that. I don't listen to that shit. But all right, so now we're getting into IRL questions that people ask. There's some good questions here, by the way. So as you guys ask more questions, donate, and things like that, I'll answer these. How would the world change if Elon Musk became as powerful as he is now during the 90s in terms of world impact? Well, with his high IQ and talent, he would have sped up the advancement of the internet, I would say. I would predict that, most definitely. And if we presuppose his goals are still similar, I think at this point in time, if he would have been around since the 90s, electric cars would be the most prevalent automobile on Earth, at least in Western civilization. With Elon having more time and being around longer, and his mind, aiding in the progression of technological advancement, I think electric cars by now would be the norm if he would have been around like in the 90s. So that's what I would say about worldly impact. Do you think if Sasuke with the Berserker armor from the Berserk would press Itachi more? I'm not really familiar with Berserk, so I'd have to know the exact type of amp that you get from that. Oh, it draws from anger. Okay. Well, if it's limitless and boundless as far as the amp, then yeah, he would fucking kill Itachi. But if there is some sort of a cap on it, then it depends on the cap. Would you consider 13 Reasons Why is woke crap? It was entertaining, but definitely woke crap for sure. That's what I would say. The political correctness was a little too much, especially during the last season of that show. I was like, come on, man, I'm trying to see some suspense. I don't need this other shit involved in this. Yamoshi versus Super Saiyan God Vegeta. Let's see. Yamoshi is more obscure, right, as a character. Maybe early Super Saiyan God Vegeta would struggle. It's hard to quantify Yamoshi's ability. My knowledge of him isn't too great. Let's see, what's his power like? Versus Wiki comes in clutch during these times. Let's see. That's not what I wanted. Give me a second here, folks. I would lean towards Vegeta. Okay, I haven't read it. Are you familiar with stochastic music like Ines Xenaki's? It's highly experimental classical music that uses mathematical processes based on probability to generate stochastic elements, pure logic. It's a very interesting type of music. I've never heard of something like that, admittedly. Music definitely has special properties, that's for sure, that are beyond, tangible concepts. Apparently the live action One Piece is dropping on Netflix soon. It better not be ass. A lot of live action anime takes are fucking pathetic, like the Goku movie or the Dragon Ball movie that came out a few years ago. That was the worst shit I've ever seen in my life. So I hope One Piece isn't a complete shit show like that was. Lionel Messi, the greatest of all time in football now. I think Pele's still there. He's in Pele's league. I think he's better than Ronaldo to me, personally. But from what I know Pele is was a hell of a football player, or soccer player, however you want to call it. All right, so the next question here: how much would American society and everyday living improve if we had bullet trains as a mode of transportation? So for those that don't know, bullet trains, I believe, are in Japan, and they go around 200 to 300 miles per hour. It might be more now. Last time I checked, that's how fast they went. So this is my take on that. Bullet trains would hamper the automotive industry, as incentive to buy vehicles would be lowered due to the fact that there now exists a faster mode of transportation, right? It's a simple rational deduction. With there being faster modes of transportation, why would you get a car? Right? You could counter and say that cars are more mobile when it comes to lateral movement, right? Bullet trains are more linear. They don't have the ability to turn and things of that nature to as efficient of a level as cars. But either way, the speed in which you move linearly would negate that difference. Right, so I would say the automotive industry would take a hit if bullet trains were introduced. Would it destroy the automotive industry? No, because people like their privacy, right? But there would be some effect. But continuing on, it would far and away become the most used mode of public transportation, behind probably just airplanes themselves, right? It would definitely beat the typical bus or train any day, right? Bullet trains are much more efficient in travel than any public transportation currently available in the United States. So, continuing on, there would be many benefits as well, such as less congestion on major interstates, highways, etc., meaning lower car accident rates with less people driving and taking the bullet train. That's a plus. However, due to the convenience, it is possible that the bullet train would have a pricey cost because it is much more capable in comparison to a regular bus or train for that matter, right? Things that provide more luxury are inherently more expensive, right? Buying a shit mattress for $100 or buying a Tempur-Pedic state-of-the-art mattress for $2,000. What's the difference? The luxury, the benefit that you get from them, etc. So the bullet train would be a pricey cost of public transportation. I think it would be less than flying, because flying is still better, right? You're in the air, you're going around 600 miles per hour. I think that's how fast most commercial airplanes go. So it'd still be cheaper than flying, but it wouldn't be that cheap. That's all I gotta say. All right, folks. Any and all questions, feel free to ask. Make sure to hit the like button if you haven't already, folks. For you guys that just came in or been here and weren't here earlier, make sure to hit the like button, folks. Make sure to hit that like button. Feel free to keep asking more questions. Donations, prioritize your question, or become a member. And you get exclusive members only content. Think about that as well. All right, so the next question is interesting as well. How would America respond if Biden was assassinated? Would America justify going to war with a particular foe or people, or would it complicate and heighten its internal security as it did after 9/11? This is a good question. America would certainly be shell-shocked by a president's assassination in modern day, like it was when JFK died. I don't think there would be any difference there, specifically as far as that aspect, but if it becomes known that another state or known entity is responsible, then the United States would certainly retaliate with war itself, as this would be considered a direct attack to our democratic state itself. We can all rationally deduce that. If fucking Russia or China sends an assassin to kill Biden, there would be war. No doubt about it. That's a direct attack to the most powerful governmental leader we have, right? The president, who is 1/3 of the governmental chamber within the system of checks and balances. Him himself, right? So he's the most powerful single individual in the United States government. If you kill him, that's a direct attack. That's a direct malicious action to do against the United States. All right, so continuing on. Now, if it were just a single individual or insignificantly small operation, like when JFK died, it was just some random asshole, unless you coincide with the conspiracy that it was the CIA. Again, I'm not getting into that. That's a whole nother tangent. Then, at best, it would only result in the Secret Service further reinforcing their security. All right, if it was just some random dude or some small operation of a couple of assholes killing the president, then Secret Service would simply just heighten their security. So the reaction would be greatly different if it were another country or significant group of people killing the president. That would result in war. Right? So depending on who does it, right? Depending on who does it will greatly dictate the reaction and response the United States would have to that. So if the stairs are a little slippery, that's GG. Yeah, that's a threat to our commander-in-chief, our stairs. Teleprompters are threats to our commander-in-chief. Public speaking is a threat to our commander-in-chief because he can barely speak. It's kind of pathetic that he won, to be honest. And that's despite the political spectrum and policy. Him winning, being 80 plus years old, senile, incompetent, winning the presidency, that's just a joke, truly. I don't care what political affiliation he has. I'd say the same thing for whether it was a Republican, a Democrat, or fucking independent. It doesn't matter. So it's fucking preposterous that a guy that can barely walk and talk won the presidency. That's preposterous to me. So, all right, so let's answer these questions. There are 3 truths in my opinion: objective truth, subjective truth, and political truth. Examples being Trump is racist, Hillary is crooked. That's an interesting take. Now, this is what I say about truth. Most truth in our objective-based reality is concrete and absolute, right? 1 + 1 = 2. If we want to get super technical, we can say that nothing is absolute because we can't reach perfection in any department of reality. Even math is round it off, arguably, right? 1 + 1 = 2. We can't. That's just us rounding off what the exact answer would be. People that are that much of a skeptic and a nihilist and a contrarian go to that level. But we can safely and rationally deduce that that's so insignificant that it can be considered absolute, right? Mathematics, physics, the properties of our universe, things like that. But where truths get more gray, like you said, is when you get into aspects like morality, like the criminal justice system. That's where truth becomes more gray, because people have differing ideologies and perspectives when it comes to morality, when it comes to justice, etc. So I do agree that there are different kinds of truths, but we got to be careful not to blur the lines, right? Because people are blurring the lines. So, quick story. I was debating someone in a philosophical debate forum, and the person literally told me that anything she believes is true. She said, "I suppose anything that I believe is utterly true." And she said, if I believe I can fly, then I'll fly. She literally said that word for word, and I told her, you would die. Jump off a building, whether you believe you can fly or not, you're going to die. That is absurd, and that is a dangerous precedent. Why? Because think of it like this. What if we thought all truths were subjective and we start not listening to experts in their fields of discipline? What if we stopped listening to doctors that prescribe us medication because we believe that the medication doesn't work when empirically it's been shown to? That's preposterous, right? That's a preposterous ideology to have. Or not believing, your electrician when he's fixing your house. Like, oh, I don't believe that you're doing it right, when that guy has decades of experience over you. See, that precedent is extremely dangerous. The precedent that all truth is subjective is extremely dangerous, and it would make a society basically crumble from the inside out. There would be no necessary established presuppositions no longer in place. They would no longer be in place. Doctors being the guys you come to for medical advice. Fucking mechanics going for car advice or whatever machine you need to fix. You wouldn't come to them for advice because you don't trust their word. That's extremely absurd. That's extremely absurd, and there has to be a fine line that has to stay there. So it's truly, truly saddening to see that. And people actually believe that shit. It's very sad. Did you hear the FBI or CIA? I can't remember which, when Elon exposed the Twitter files. Oh, I did. I did hear about the FBI's collusion with Twitter. It's really, really disappointing. Very, very disappointing that a authentic, legitimate law enforcement entity cares more about censoring certain sides of the political spectrum rather than stopping real crimes that take place on Twitter, like child pornography and shit like that. They're more focused on that than they were on actual crimes taking place. That is fucking absurd. Truly, that's extremely saddening to hear. Truly. Kanye for 2024. Exactly. He proves that anyone can be president. Yeah. I believe the advancement of AI first would produce their own version of Infinity Supercomputing Monera, so people live their lives on it. That's a good theory. I do think that would be the case as virtual reality continues to evolve. AI is a dangerous tool. Scientists have to approach AI very carefully. They give AI too much power without a moral compass. It results in an uncontrollable and unstoppable force of nature. That's what would happen if you approach AI the wrong way and give it too much autonomy, right? You let it make its own decisions without a moral compass, it will simply make the most extreme decision due to simple numbers rather than morality, right? Morality is gray. It's not a tangible concept that you can put into a computer like a mathematical concept. So I remember when I was younger, someone was talking shit about Obama. Then I asked them if they knew what the president's job is. Yeah, that's most people too. That's the sad part, right? Most people don't even know why they hate these people. They're indoctrinated by mainstream media. That's why they hate the people. You ask them, like, I don't know. Everyone else does. Really? So you'd rather be a sheep? Oh, shit. Alexa once again flexing her bag. I appreciate you, Alexa. One more, because that's a huge flex. Appreciate it, Alexa. Flexing the bag as usual. Gotta give her props. Put this on the screen. Give me a second, folks, and we shall continue this political discussion. Her efforts and flexing must be acknowledged. Give me a second, folks, as I do that. Give me a second. Where is it? There it is. Thanks again, Alexa, for that. Okay. Forever in support of the journey. Appreciate it. Alexa's the go, that's for sure. One more for Alexa, because she's been doing this for several streams in a row. Goat. Alright, continuing on. So Abe got assassinated in 1860. JFK assassinated in 1960. Will this trend continue, you think? That's a very good observation. I didn't ever notice that. Shit. If it happens again, you know what they say, third time's a charm. There has to be some sort of convoluted plot behind this, right? 3 times in a row, all a century apart. That's extremely, I would say, convenient as far as a coincidence is concerned, you know, so. All right, folks, we'll continue to ask questions if you have any. And Alexa, you can ask one as well if you want, because you did the... Oh, shit, another goat in the house. Gotta give credit where credit's due. Appreciate you, Dragon Kage. Appreciate that, brother. Merry Christmas to you as well. Let me put this on the screen. Going to hop off and play some games. Appreciate you, brother, for coming in as well. Much love. Much love indeed. Give me a second here, folks. Continue to ask your questions, folks, while I do this. Any and all questions are welcomed. Let me move this over here. Shout out to all the donates over the last couple streams. You guys are all goats. All the members are goats. Appreciate that. Give me a second here, folks, while I do this. And we shall continue. Where did I... Give me a second, folks. There we go. Put it on the screen. Must acknowledge the goat status here. Continue on. Oh, he's an assassin in 1865. He was elected in 1860. Okay, now I see what you mean. What if 9/11 never happened? I've discussed this before. I'll discuss it again. The 9/11 incident forever changed foreign policy. It forever changed the approach that the United States would take when it comes to border security, when it comes to securing the borders in the skies as well, with, you know, TSA being on all corners for all flights, especially foreign flights. You know, 9/11 was the catalyst for a more radical and extreme foreign policy. Do I think it's a bad thing? I do not. I think every state, every nation should have the right to impose standards and protocols for the security of the nation. There must be national security. And 9/11, like I said, was the catalyst for that. It was an extremely traumatic and unexpected event of biblical proportions in the United States. You know, people were watching it from their homes on the television. They were fucking shocked. Their jaws dropped. They never thought that the United States would ever be threatened to such an extent, and that such a malevolent and heinous act would ever be, executed upon the United States population. But it did happen. So, what was the best response? A stricter and more enforced foreign policy. What's comical to me is there are people on certain sides of the political spectrum that are against foreign policy and border security. I don't understand that. They end up affiliating it to racism, which is absurd. It doesn't matter what race someone is in or what race someone is. All that matters is border security. The person can be blue, can be yellow, black, white, it don't matter. If you're a foreign entity, there must be protocols put in place to ensure that you're not a malevolent individual. It's that simple. There's nothing wrong with that. That's necessary for law and order to continue in a superpower nation. Truly. It's truly absurd that people are against foreign policy and border security. Makes no sense to me. Makes no sense. Again, emotion is starting to override and consume logic amongst the masses. That's what I see, and it's very sad to see. So 9/11 forced a change, you know. Do you guys realize that the Raikage don't really have any anti-feats in terms of speed? I guess, but he did get outsped by Minato and the KCM1 Naruto. I don't know if that's an anti-feat, but nonetheless, it was a feat that was not positive, I guess you could say. All right. Jada Pinkett really had a relationship with Tupac. Was his friendship, in your opinion? Oh no, Tupac was blowing her back out. There's no doubt about it. The way she speaks of him, the way she still brings him up, I believe, into this day, highly implies that he was blowing her back out, and highly implies that she never respected Will Smith. Will Smith should have dropped her when he had the chance. Will Smith's legacy is tarnished because he simped over a woman that disrespects him, and literally on national television said to his face, I fucked another dude. I had an entanglement. Trying to kind of soften the blow. That doesn't soften shit, you know? Will Smith was sitting there like, what the fuck, man? So, simply put, Jada Smith is the representation of the modern woman that you should avoid. Period. Period. Avoid women like that at all costs. Can we all agree Itachi stands are really dumb for having Itachi in the top 10 for that poll? Yeah, it's the same reason why Naruto and fucking Sasuke are up there. It's absurd. Most of the canonical literature is on these guys already. Why do we need more? Why? I don't understand that. You know, so I agree. It is absurd. It makes the whole announcement and idea of this pointless because we already have tons of canonical literature on these guys. What's the point of the fucking announcement if they're gonna allow people to vote for fucking Naruto and Sasuke and Itachi and fucking guys that have plenty on them already canonically? You know. What if MLK existed in 2022? You can presuppose a couple things, so it depends on your presupposition. If you presuppose, you know, that racism is nearly vanquished like it is now, not to say it doesn't exist, because it does, but nearly vanquished in comparison to 1950, then MLK wouldn't be the guy he is today. Why? Because he doesn't have any incentive to become this, you know, anti-racism revolutionary advocate. Yeah, because racism is almost dead now. It still exists. I'm not saying it doesn't. It'd be absurd for me to say it doesn't. There'll always be malevolence in an imperfect world. No matter how high you reach in terms of excellence, in terms of policy and safety and peace, there will always exist malevolence. You know, reality is inherently cyclical, meaning there's always a cycle. There's never stagnant levels of peace, and there are never stagnant levels of war. Things are always changing. There's always evolution. Right? So MLK wouldn't have the incentive to become who he became back then, because he had a reason to become who he became. He was one of the advocates that erased the large levels of discrimination, segregation, and racism, right? Because he had plenty of incentive to do so. There's certainly legislation that was heavily against other races that weren't Caucasian and white, right? So today he'd be somebody else. He'd be a different guy. But if we presuppose that history is undone and all that movement was never done because he never existed back then we might still have some racism to this day, to that extent, you know what I'm saying? So it really depends. Alright, I'd like to see something like an Orochimaru spinoff. He'd be a cool character, I guess. Kisame would be cool too. That's a cool one. Do you think Jada falling for the soft rappers is a result of Tupac imprinting on her? Tupac is an alpha male. He had extreme clout, levels of clout that many people don't ever reach. Only people like Michael Jordan and fucking LeBron James reach that kind of fame, at least in the States. So, simply put, he was extremely appealing and desirable to her, and that's the reason why he blew her back out several occasions, and why she still talks about him 20 years later. That's the guy she really liked, and that's the facts. What happened? She settled for Will Smith because Tupac was no longer around, and Will Smith is successful himself. So, truth is, that's the guy she always wanted, though. Does racism make people racist, or are people just racist in the first place? Prejudice and bias will always exist in any individual. If they say that it doesn't, they're lying. That doesn't mean that everyone's a piece of shit racist, right? In comparison to someone that's in a racist organization or something like that. But, so to read the question again, does racism make people racist? If they enact, in racist acts or, express racist rhetoric, then yes, they're racist. Right? Being capable of racism doesn't make you racist, because we're all capable of bias and prejudice. And if we say we aren't, we're lying. But we're good people because we keep that under control. We keep ourselves in check, right? We stay noble and honorable. Like Jordan Peterson said, if you're capable of it, it doesn't make you a bad person. If you enact upon it, you're a bad person. Oh, shit. Shout out to Sean the GOAT again. Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate you, brother. Give me a second here. Gotta put that on the screen, guys. It's fucking Christmas Eve. And the bags are under the trees. Give me a second here, folks. And I shall read your question as well, brother. Give me a second here. By the way, while I do this, I have finished my trials for looking for a co-host. So hopefully next week we have a co-host or two on here. And maybe we'll do a call-in show as well, because I'll have some co-hosts now that I found some, you know. So I'll let you guys know of that when the decision is made. If you guys tried out, and thank to all who tried out, by the way, you know, I'll have my decision, and we'll go from there. And these will be even more interactive, right? I'll have guys doing call-in shows with me, maybe live debates where we just debate random topics of your guys' choosing. You guys can donate a topic, and I'll talk about it. We'll debate it. Both get 30 seconds a piece, and things like that. Things that spice up the pod. So appreciate your brother once again. That deserves one or more of these. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, brother. Thoughts on Balenciaga scandal lately? Also, much love, brother. Appreciate that, brother. That's a good question. So I would say this about that. Balenciaga was definitely out of line doing what it did, right? Expressing and implying some sort of child pornography. I know it was some sort of commercial or something like that, but that shouldn't be displayed, right? That's not okay, ethically speaking. Ethically, it's not okay. And furthermore, they were in the wrong. They were certainly in the wrong. Now, do I believe they should be canceled and ostracized for it and just destroyed utterly as a business? No. I think they learn from their mistakes. They're going to adjust accordingly and realize that things like that are not ethical. But simply put, I do think they're in the wrong. Hopefully, I don't know. You know, I haven't caught up to date with it, like as far as 100%. So I don't know if they apologize or anything, but they definitely need to if they haven't, and they need to adjust their style of doing things. You know, it's cool to be exotic and different, but when you go that far, you know, that far left, it's just not. It's not ethical. You know, so. Do you think hip hop helps or damages black people in a society sense? Hip hop helps or damages? I don't think it damages. If anything, it doesn't damage just one race. It damages all races if the wrong message is portrayed by a certain song. Excuse me. A certain song that talks about fucking killing people and shit like that. That damages all people that listen to it, despite race. But it also helps. I think there's a lot of good rappers out there that portray a good message. You know, they are very relatable, like Drake, for example, or J. Cole. They express their ambitions and they paint it in a poetic manner to where people can relate and admire them, and they improve their own lives because of it. That would help all races, not just black or white or whatever. So, yeah. No one is born racist. It's a learned trait. That is not the same thing as discrimination based on appearance. Yeah, I do agree. When you're first born, you're as innocent as you could be, right? You're damn near perfectly innocent. You're not even aware of yourself. You're not even aware that you're sentient, almost. Barely aware, right? You need to eat, shit, sleep. That's all you're aware of when you're first born. So you're right about that. Racism is definitely a learned trait. And if you're in the right environment, you're more prone to becoming a racist piece of shit. You know, that's the truth. But if you're born with, you know, very honorable and noble parents, those likelihoods are much lower. So you're right about that. That is not the same thing as discrimination based on appearance. I agree. It's not. It's not. They're not mutually exclusive, but they're not mutually inclusive either. So I see what you're saying. I agree. I think if Will Smith did allow himself to be taken aback by Jada's beauty, he would have seen the red flags. Yeah, he simped. He simped over this woman. Beauty is power, whether we want to admit that or not. Beauty is power, and simply put, her beauty blinded him, and it came down to biting him in the ass 20 years later. She's still talking about this guy that blew her back out 20 years ago. Yes, Tupac's a legend, but nonetheless, show some fucking respect to your husband, bro. That's disrespectful. That's all I gotta say. Hip-hop acts as a voice for the community, and it's not just blacks as well. Exactly. Yeah. They don't correlate mutually. I agree 100%. 100%. All of urban culture can, you know, coincide and relate to hip-hop. Not just, you know, communities with only black people. All races. Completely. Call-in shows are missed for sure. Maybe have Alexa on as well. What do you think about that, Alexa, if you're in here? Would you want to join with my new co-hosts or co-host on the call-in show. Not that you could, speak on anime because you don't know anything about anime, but still, it's up to you. And because you've donated so much, I'll let you decide. So if you're here, you may decide. All right, I'll continue on. Alexa would steal the spotlight. You think brain chip implants will be normalized in the next 50 years, and will you ever get one if it becomes affordable? This is what I think about brain chip implants. Here's the thing about technology in general. The masses won't trust technology until there's enough observational and empirical evidence to suggest reliability and trustworthiness, right? That's the same idea with when 2000 came around, when people thought the world was going to end because of the introduction of the internet. They didn't know what to expect. They didn't know if the internet would eventually become a harmful entity to the human race. The same thing with these brain chip implants. Me personally, I don't trust it. There's nothing empirically for me to conclude that it's safe, reliable, or trustworthy. There's nothing for me to conclude that. Now, in the next couple of decades to centuries, could that be the case? Absolutely, and maybe even the next 50 years. If there's enough empirically on a grand scale of observational data and surveying to suggest that, then I would trust it. Definitely if it's affordable, of course. There's gonna have to be some guinea pigs, probably rats, and eventually human trials will be conducted to prove reliability, trustworthiness, etc. So maybe in the next 50 years, maybe that's a realistic timeline for me trusting something like that and getting one myself. So the reason why I say we're gonna is because the people who blitz him are persons according to the law should blitz him. I see what you're saying. What if X never died? How far would he be right now? X was, to me, one of the only guys that could reach the heights of someone like Drake. He was really that talented. Right now, he'd be a world-renowned artist, even more so than when he was before his death. That was a talented kid. Very, very talented. The most talented of the newer 2010 generation, easily. The guy was extremely talented. What if dinosaurs became domesticated? Shit. We would need more residential, industrial, and commercial development for their big asses. We would need fucking, island-level farms for the domestication of dinosaurs, with how large they are. We have cattle on these, small, I would say, town-level farms, sometimes smaller than that, but for dinosaurs, we would need a damn near island-level farm, city-level farm to domesticate and kind of catalyze these sort of gigantic organisms, so... Joe Biden versus Jet Stairs, man, that's a tough one. Exactly, it's competitive, that's for sure. How do you feel private zoos, like the one owned by Tiger King? How do I feel about them? I would say that I think they're okay, unless there's malevolent practices taking place. If the zoos are fucking torturing animals or torturing animals for the aesthetic pleasing event to human eye, I think that's malevolent, not okay. If it's just simply a zoo that takes in animals that aren't doing so well in the wild, things of that nature, I think it's okay. Now the Tiger King is fucking crazy. I don't know about that, but regular private zoo with regular practices seems okay to me. I know there's always the vegans and people that are woke saying this is not okay, this is bullshit. The animals are fine. And most of them need to be in a controlled setting anyway, for the most part. So I think that's fine. Let's see. Is there a difference between deja vu and coincidences? There is a slight difference. Coincidence, semantically, right? We have to go to semantics. Coincidence is more so when something takes place that would connect to something else, right? And it's not, there is no ulterior motive for that event taking place, right? So, for example, I'm trying to think of a good coincidence. Let's look one up. So this is more concise. Coincidence example. Let's see. So a random coincidence would be every man in a room is named Fred, right? But there is no ulterior motive or no pre-established parameters that made this happen. It was simply just by chance. Right, a very low odd event took place. Now, deja vu is more so when you're within some specific point in time and you felt like you've already lived that experience. So if you're fucking, on the phone with someone, and you're like, I swear I had this conversation with this person in this way, in this exact manner. That's deja vu. So there's definitely some differences between coincidences and deja vu. Deja vu is an interesting phenomenon. It seems that most people experience it at least once in their lives. I don't know the explanation for that. It is strange. But yeah, that's the difference semantically between deja vu and coincidences. In the past, people were so hateful of anime. They thought anime was demonic and influenced the bad. I agree. I think anime was more taboo back in the day. It was more looked at as not okay, and there's a lot of prejudice and these presuppositions established about it. Now it's world renowned, and everyone watches it. And in fact, it helps some people's lives because of the ideologies that are expressed in these animes: Naruto, Dragon Ball, One Piece, etc. These protagonists influence millions of guys around the world to do better in their lives. Vegeta's speeches, if you're never the best, you'll amount to nothing. Him always expressing he'll never give up, things like that. That helps a lot of guys all around the world do better in their own lives. Extremely beneficial. Or someone like Naruto, his ninja way should be honestly adopted by us all. His ninja way should be. So I feel like X was a multi-musician. Definitely. He got all kinds of hits and all kinds of subcategories, which is extremely, extremely impressive. So, have you ever done any personal research on the Kundalini or Markavi? I have not. I don't think I've even heard of those terms. Have you ever done... Okay, just heard that. How long would it take for the West to be infatuated by anime if Dragon Ball didn't exist? Dragon Ball is definitely one of the main catalysts, or arguably the main catalyst for it, the infatuation of anime. It probably would have taken longer, right? It'd have to be a top tier, high caliber, as far as popularity wise, anime to reach the States, like Naruto. If it was Naruto that was the catalyst, anime wouldn't have blown up until around 2010, 2009, 2010, 2011, right? When part 1 Naruto was commencing. And it probably would have taken a decade more or so for anime to become as popular as it is now in the States. Dragon Ball was a huge catalyst, right? Dragon Ball Z, now Dragon Ball Super. So, that'd be cool if you made another channel on like serious and insightful stuff. I've been thinking about that. I have been thinking about doing that kind of thing, discussing more IRL topics, politics, etc. That's actually something that's been on my mind. I've been considering it. I would want to grow more here and then have more of an audience that would follow me there while I do that kind of content as well. I've had thought of that in the past because I do delve into other topics besides anime as well, deeply, actually, to a deep level. I do like to delve into those things, politics and morality, philosophy, even scientific concepts like, the origin of the universe and things of that nature. So, would you ever do a Naruto iceberg video? I would consider it. Yeah. I have a channel like yours and a serious channel where I talked about and analyze real world things and solutions to stop it. And I feel like we're similar. Yeah, I've thought about that. It seems that people want guidance. Not to say that I'm a holy preacher, because I'm not. I have a long way to evolve as well. But people want guidance, right? That's why people like Tate have blown up. These influencers that have reached, popularity levels of extreme proportions is because people want guidance. A lot of men specifically live lives of quiet desperation. Right? They want guidance. They want structure in their lives. They don't have any because they're lost. They need some guidance, and guys like that have given them that. So in the future, I have thought about doing that, doing some sort of channel. So, do you think Minato could beat the 5 Kage Summit? The individuals at the 5. I'm assuming the 5 Kage Summit with Danzo. Yes, I do think he beats all of them. Or the 5 Kage fought Madara. I think there's a good chance he beats them too. Honestly. I think Minato would have owned the 5 Kage Summit. Not 5v1, but gauntlet style like Sasuke was going. 1v1, he slaughters them all. Yeah. Why don't you add these podcasts to Apple Podcasts or Spotify? I have thought about that. I might do that in the future as well. Just to expand my reach, I guess you could say. So, I do see myself doing that soon. It's more of a hassle. Maybe it'd be smart and wise to hire someone else to do that, so I don't have to worry about that, because that takes a lot of time. But yeah, I do want to do it in the future. Especially men now. Yep, men live lives of quiet desperation. So that's just the truth. All right, folks, I think there's a couple more IRL questions here. While you guys ask more questions there, donate or become a member or anything, while you guys do that, I'll keep reading these. So this one is a scientific-based question, and this is all theoretical, of course. Are tachyons existent in our universe, in your opinion? So first of all, a tachyon is a theoretical particle or some sort of mass that moves beyond the speed of light, right? So it's a particle or piece of mass that moves beyond the speed of light that we know of. And in fact, some theorize that it can go back in time due to it surpassing the speed of light, right? So this is my take on it from the peer-reviewed articles I've read, because clearly I'm not a physicist and that's not my field of expertise. They are mostly theoretical, like I said, although from what I've read, there seems to be a general consensus that tachyons are consistent with the theory of relativity, implying that the existence is more so possible due to that, right, than not, right? Because it just coincided with some known fundamental force law, like the theory of relativity. Continuing on, hence being aware of and acknowledging that we only have scratched the surface when it comes to the laws and properties of our universe, I would say it's certainly possible that they exist, and that their blatant discovery wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. Honestly, I wouldn't. Tuning exams, Neji's with Ten's techniques, and Naruto with Goku's techniques. Who would win? Tien's techniques. I think this ability, Neji would have a better chance. If we're going off equal stats, Tien has some interesting hacks abilities. He can blind you, etc. Neji probably would win tuning exams if we're presupposing the power levels don't, highly increase because they have Dragon Ball type abilities, techniques. Do any guidance? I feel like I'm losing my mind sometimes. Yeah, guidance for a young man is extremely, extremely important. That's why most delinquents and juveniles are those kind of people, because they lack a father figure, right? Without the nucleus of family in Western civilization, that's how society crumbles, right? There are more degenerates, more delinquents, more domestic violence, more chaos. With father figures, there's structure, right? And a good father figure will also instill discipline. Without that, as a young man, right, kind of delving into adulthood early on, right after high school, you don't really know what to do. You have to learn on the fly. And that's a scary process, right? You don't know, most guys don't want to be losers, right? A lot of guys aren't going to admit it. I don't care how much money I make. Most guys don't want to be losers. Most men inherently want to reach their potential, right? But they don't know how. They don't have the guidance. They don't have the resources for it. They're not aware of the resources, because they're there. Go to YouTube and find fucking, Tate or something. They're going to give you some sort of guidance. Some guys are just naive to the resources that are available. They don't have a father figure. They've never had a single ounce of encouragement in their lives. Because I believe, even though this isn't 100% empirically proven, that the incentive known as encouragement is dying amongst young men. Young men just don't get praised for their efforts, not anymore. And that's a big motivator for a lot of guys. A lot of guys' lives change because of one piece of encouragement. It's truly bizarre. I've seen guys that were fucking losers get some sort of motivation, and they 180 in their lives, and now they're successful. It's truly, truly I would say, socially intrinsic pandemic. The lack of encouragement, the lack of guidance is extremely, extremely prevalent now. So, photons are scary as fuck if they had mass, especially every photon hitting Earth to a non-nuclear warhead. Yeah, there's a lot of properties that we're only scratching the surface on. In fact, if we had to put an empirical value on it, as far as how much we've discovered, I wouldn't be surprised if we've only discovered like 1%, if that, of what the universe has to offer as far as just, the empirical evidence that's out there, the properties, the laws, the phenomenons. There's tons. So we don't know shit, to be honest. We don't. Thoughts on the starseed families? I need to touch up on that again. Starseed families. I did delve into this quite a while ago, but I forgot. 25 starseed types. Which star system is your soul really from? So this is like some horoscope thing, or whatever those things are called. I think that every human being has genetic predispositions. I don't think the alignment of the stars have anything to do with that. And in fact, women, funny story, women specifically use this bullshit horoscope shit to justify their inadequacies and their bad behavior. You know, a girl's disrespectful. They're like, I'm sorry, I'm a Scorpio. I don't give a fuck what month you were born in. That doesn't dictate or, you know, contort your sort of behavior. You're not genetically predisposed to be a bitch because you're born in fucking September or whatever. So those kind of things to me are absurd, to be honest. How do you handle loneliness? Honestly, the blunt answer is to become used to it. The more ambitious you are, the more loneliness will come with it. You know, because success is rare, especially if you're trying to reach high levels of it, where you're an influencer or the top of your field in any field of discipline. There's going to be loneliness because most people don't want to endure that kind of suffering, pain, and consistency, because that's all necessary to reach high levels of success. Loneliness is going to be in your future, and if you're not prepared for that, then maybe you're not made to be, you know, at the top of the mountain, so to speak. So you have to toughen your mind. You know, it's the only way. You can't run from it. You can't escape it. You can't deny it, because it'll be there. You know, every man that wants to reach high levels of success are going to experience loneliness. And once you do get a certain level, that's where you start to network, right? Guys that are on this path with you, they notice your respect, your efforts. They respect you. They want to affiliate with you. Then you have more of a network, and then you're not so alone. But the rise is where it's the loneliest, when you have nothing. When you're just a fucking 17-year-old loser, you know, you don't know what you're going to do with your life. You have no money. You're out of shape. You're going to be alone. It is what it is. Once you 25, 26, 27, and you have some success and you start seeing results, other people like you that are successful will see that and they'll want to network with you. And that's when you have a group and you're no longer alone. So women love this type of stuff. And just being honest, I get it a lot, but people take astrology way too hyper-literally, in my opinion. It's a cop-out to avoid self-improvement, especially women. To women, they're pre-established, they're pre-assembled, and they're perfect. A lot of them. I'm not saying all, because that's disingenuous, but a lot of women in Western civilization think they're 10s. They're not. They're not. They think they're God's gift to man and that they deserve 6-figure plus man, 6 foot plus, 6-inch dick. No, you don't. That's delusional. Just like how me at 17 eating Cheetos playing Halo, I don't deserve a fucking perfect 10. I don't. But I don't pretend I do, like these women. That's just the truth. So, oh shit. Another, this is a resubscription to the members only. Appreciate that, brother, by Sean. Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate that. Let's read the question here. Can pain ever be objectively measured? That's a great question. Pain, the best way it can be done, and from my observations, I'm not a medical practitioner or nothing like that, the best way it can be measured, if we're talking about physical pain, is with this sort of quantitative measure that medical practitioners take, right? If we're talking about physical pain, right? They ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does it hurt? Whatever it may be. And you give somewhat of a value. I guess that's some sort of quantitative value of pain, right? That's the best way you could do it. And if we're talking about intrinsic pain, like mental anguish, I guess that's where something like the manual of psychology comes into consideration, right? I believe there's some sort of manual that psychologists use. I forgot what it was called. I'm not a psychologist. But they kind of categorize mental illness based on mental anguish and things of that nature. And they have these sort of categories for mental illnesses, which you can correlate to mental anguish as well. So the best way is, I guess, qualitative assessments when measuring pain. Obviously, you yourself as an individual can scale it the best, right? There are experts in fields such as medicine or in psychology that try to scale your pain, right, or ask you directly. So that's the best way pain could be measured. Is it objective? No, because one guy's 7 in pain might be another guy's 4. So you got to take that in consideration too. There's a variation of presuppositions as far as what number represents what kind of pain. So can it ever be objectively measured? Currently, no. It can't be. But I wouldn't be surprised if, decades to centuries from now, scientists somehow synthetically replicate some sort of device that measures pain in some weird way. That wouldn't surprise me. But currently, it's not possible. So Uber Eats or a warehouse job is a part-time second job. Again, this is all preference. Me personally, I like having autonomy, so I'd probably go with Uber Eats if it's my second time job or part-time job. So, but it depends on your preference, really. Would you ever debate Destiny or anything you disagreed with him on? If I get to that level of status and I'm in that realm where he notices me, I would certainly debate him. Speaking of that side of the spectrum, I listened to, what's his name, Hassan debate. He's terrible. Terrible debater. He's nowhere near as good as I thought he was. Destiny's way better than him. He was debating someone on the Tory Lanez case, by the way, free Tory Lanez. And he was preposterously bad at debating. Preposterously bad. It was sad how bad he was in that debate. It was awful. Awful. So, Destiny's much better than him. A lot of them are barely fives. Exactly. These women are delusional. Delusional. Why? Because, you know what's unfair to me is, so in a hypothetical world, right? Well, this is the real world. Let's say I'm a self-made fucking millionaire. I'm in shape, etc. I have the respect, the status, the legacy. And some random bitch thinks I owe her something. Some random 6 that's walking across the street. I'm a perfect 10. Why would I take you when I had to self-make myself? Why would I not hold you to a certain standard and expect you to improve? Why can't you improve? Why? You know, so guys that are more successful can express their standards more, right? Because they're more rare. So as a guy, again, the women aren't the goal. They're a byproduct of the success. But at a certain point, once you reach a certain level of success, you can pre-establish that you have standards. And the reality is, women will be more responsive to that because you're at a more rare tier, right? So, exactly my thoughts. Your subjective experience with pain is what you claim as your 7 or whatever. I'm curious if there will be a device someday. Exactly. Yeah. I believe people have certain pain tolerances, certain willpower, right? That all plays a factor. These intangible aspects that really can't be measured either. A guy with extreme willpower could take someone's 10 and say it's a 2. You know, some pussy that says, oh, it hurts so bad. You put this same amount of pain to someone else, they're like, this shit's nothing. This is a 2, whether it's mental or physical. You know, so it's definitely very difficult to measure. Check out the romance for it. With his powers and chakra, yes, Naruto would be able to take a nuclear explosion easily. Would he be able to? If you ask Kurama, yeah, the regeneration would be more than enough. Without Kurama, no, I don't think he could. Depending on the nuclear explosion too. If it's one that is of, you know, country level AP, if it's just him in base without Kurama, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know if his durability would hold. Would you ever do a first expression of music or anime scenes in the live stream? Yeah, I'm open to, you know, the evolution of the streams. Having a co-host is really going to change things, and we'll see how that goes. You know, having co-hosts on here, interaction will be higher. There's probably going to be more people in here because they're going to want to see me debate co-hosts and things like that. So things will change as I see the response from, you know, the masses. So. Folks, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I think there's a couple more pre-live stream questions here. Once again, if you're in here and you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit the like button, folks, and it gets us higher in the algorithm, gets more eyeballs on the stream. In fact, 2 streams ago, I think we got over 1,000 views. That's pretty good. You know, so more people are tuning in and finding these. You know, maybe they just stumble upon one of these streams and they, you know, become part of the discussion. So hit the like button if you haven't already. Thoughts on the Gunna and Young Thug situation? This kind of coincides with Tory Lanez case. I'm more familiar with Tory Lanez case specifically. Gunna, he did what he had to do. I believe he snitched, is what people call it. And then I'm not really familiar with Young Thug, but and his situation. But Tory Lanez was, it saddens me to see him found as guilty, right? With that being the verdict, it was extremely disappointing. It just shows that the justice system is deeply flawed, right? Basically no fucking hard evidence to suggest he shot fucking Megan Thee Stallion, yet because these women claim he did, he's automatically guilty by the jury. I want to see what the jury is, by the way. How the hell are you going to conclude that he's guilty with no evidence? In fact, both witnesses that were against him changed their stories. How the fuck are you going to fucking side with them when they change their stories? when they were on live TV, not in the court of law, they were bullshitting that he shot. That Megan Thee Stallion said, that he shot her, and then the other bitch, I forgot her name, Kayla or some shit that was there, that fought Megan, also changed her fucking story. But they're gonna fucking believe them and find him guilty. That's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. That is truly an extremely sad verdict to hear from the justice system. Truly. Pathetic one, honestly. And I would say the same thing if it was a female. If it was a female that was being tried and there's no fucking evidence and, the prosecutors are questioning people that changed their fucking story, it would still be a bullshit verdict to me. Honestly. Silverback versus Grizzly. Silverback. I think Grizzlies are just larger to a significant extent. I think the Grizzly would take it. Let's see the bite forces here. That's important too. So Silverback. Bite force. 1,300 pounds per square inch. That's pretty fucking high. Okay, now Grizzly. 1160 psi. Pretty close. It's pretty relative. Now let's compare Grizzly size. That greatly matters as well. They can be about 600 pounds, about 7 feet tall. Okay, so Silverback, how about that? 300 to 400 pounds, can be anywhere from 5 to 6 feet. I think the Grizzly's size would be the difference. Even if there's a gap in strength, I think the Grizzly would eventually overwhelm the Silverback. They have more fat to absorb damage, things of that nature. Despite the relativity in bite force, I would lean towards the the Grizzly. Lion versus alligator. One-on-one, if it's a Nile crocodile, that shit is fucking up a lion. 3,000 psi, or it might be more than that. Let me double check if it's the right alligator. Bite force. All right, American alligators, if we're talking about that specifically, they have a psi of 2,100. Okay. Saltwater crocodile has the highest recorded of 3,700. Nile crocodile has about 5,000. Oh, so if it's an alligator, an American alligator versus a lion straight up, obviously the lion would have the mobility advantage. That's presupposing they're not in the water. But I feel like the alligator's more sturdy, better armor, a stronger bite force for sure. Let me just double check that so I'm not misquoting or giving misinformation. Pretty sure it's not that high for a lion. Bite force. Oh yeah, it's not even close. Yeah, I would go with the alligator. One-on-one. Yeah. It better matches a black bear. That's a good matchup right there. Maybe the gorilla's smart enough to just climb. Oh shit! If they have some jiu-jitsu knowledge, they're choking that shit out for sure. Johnny Sins versus Saitama. Johnny Sins is omnipotent, having several professions at once via screens. So I'll go with Johnny Sins. Black bear would be better though for sure. Yeah. Now we're power scaling animals. I love it. We do everything here. Yeah, this is the realm of variation all over in all topics. Like I always say, we speak all topics here. All right, I believe these are sports questions here, so we're in the realm of sports here. As you guys ask more questions, so I'm gonna should the Warriors move on from Draymond Green next year, based on their record and their success this year, and from what I know of Draymond's production rate, maybe it would be wise to start thinking about it. Maybe not next season, but they should start thinking about replacement. That's the way sports work. Father Time beats all. So I'm pretty sure he's not as useful as he once was during their run with KD and before that, so. All right, so you guys ask more questions here. Who was a better dynamic duo, Steph and KD or Steph and Clay? That's a good question. So overall, I'd lean towards Steph and KD because of the skill gap between KD and Clay. However, I would say Steph and Clay have better chemistry because they've played together better. I feel like their skills coincide with each other better, right? Being like a catch and shoot guy that Clay is, right? Being the catch and shoot guy that Clay is, and Steph being the great passer that he is for a point guard, their skills coincide better. But KD and Steph are just elite. They'll drop 60 on you together, So I'd lean towards KD and Steph overall. All right, folks. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask. I believe that was all my pre-live stream questions here. That was the last one. The Lakers need to get rid of AD. He's just too injury prone. It's ridiculous that he's that injury prone. Every week I see him in the headlines for injuries. It's fucking ridiculous. He's very, very, very skilled, especially for a big man. But damn, that's just fucking ridiculous how fucking injured he gets. Did you answer the Taechon questions by chance? Yeah, I said that I wouldn't be surprised due to the sheer fact that we've only scratched the surface on the law of physics in the universe. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Any and all questions, folks? Alligator versus crocodile. Crocodiles, by average, have a greater bite force. And I believe they're larger on average, too. So crocodile probably fucks up an alligator. Especially a Nile crocodile. They fucking destroy them. Probably one bite would snap their exoskeleton. One bite would be enough to crack it, probably. So. Alright, folks. Any and all questions, politics, religion, morality, anime, whatever the case may be, I shall answer any and all questions that you folks may have. Let me see if any other questions were asked in the Discord by chance. I don't think so. Who was your favorite character in Attack on Titan? Probably Levi. He's one of the coldest individuals that I've ever seen in anime history. When the Beast Titan slaughtered, the commanding chief of, the individuals that fight the Titans, and Levi was basically all that was left. He slaughtered all the Titans and almost killed the Beast Titan. That was the coldest shit I've ever seen. It's up there with fucking Super Saiyan Goku. It's up there with Naruto, emerging in the fucking Leaf Village when he saves the village from pain. That was one of the coldest moments I've ever seen. So, one matchup would be interesting. Is it Bull Moose versus a Lion? That would be interesting. Have you read Jujutsu Kaisen yet? No, not yet. What are your plans for Christmas? Not relatively much, just time with the family, most likely. As far as presents, that really isn't of importance to me. Like, taking presents, obviously I'm into giving presents, but taking, I guess as you get older, that changes. But yeah, folks, next Saturday should be a very good stream. We'll probably be having a call-in show. Probably a call-in show. And after that, we might even do live debates for you guys after that. So we'll see how the scheduling goes exactly. I'll let you guys know in the future after I have a co-host and, things go from there. Things are going to heat up for sure. All right, folks. Any and all questions are welcomed. Who do you got in the Super Bowl this year? Dark horse to me are the Bills. They have a very good record. I don't think the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. When they have a rookie quarterback, once the playoffs start, a lot of rookie quarterbacks crumble to the pressure. Defenses have seen you enough times to adjust to your mobile QB, things like that. I don't think the Eagles win it all, despite their very good record. I'd probably go with someone like the Bills. That might be my number one pick. The Chiefs are up there as well. Clearly, they're dominating. Chiefs, Bills. Those are my top two picks right now. Bills probably number one. They're well-rounded on both sides of the football. Very well-rounded. Great talent on both sides. Consistency on both sides. So, admittedly, I haven't seen much football this year, but I have kept up for the most part. Would Light theoretically have been able to achieve his goals without the Death Note? I would say no, because he lacks the resources to do so. Right? The difference between him and L was the resources, right? But he made up for that with the Death Note's mystical powers. It would basically be two geniuses, one with all the resources on Earth and one with none. A regular kid that at best can maybe manipulate his way into the police force that his father works at best. That's even if it gets that far. So he would definitely not be successful. He would definitely fail at some point. The Death Note was the X factor. Of course, his intelligence is important as well. But the Death Note was a huge factor in that. And the Shinigami by his side, and learning of all the secrets of the Shinigami world and death and things like that. It was a huge, huge plus for him. Who's a better QB nowadays, Brady or Rodgers? Right now, Rodgers hasn't played that well, man, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He has a terrible receiving corps. They're fucking dog shit. They can't even run their routes right sometimes. They run the wrong plays. It's a fucking mess there. But I think I'm going to side with Rodgers right now. Brady's age is starting to show a little bit. He's starting to show a little bit. So I would simply say probably Rodgers right now. All time, Brady's the greatest by far, and I don't like Brady, but by far he's the greatest of all time. It's not even close. It's actually laughable to compare anybody else to him. He has 7 rings, every relevant statistical record broken. I mean, what else is there to do for him? The most wins of all time, most touchdowns of all time. Like I said, it's not even close. But right now, Rodgers is better. So Tesla versus Lincoln, which is better? Lincoln has some very luxurious vehicles. Tesla obviously is a technological phenom, clearly. It's probably Tesla. Will time travel ever be possible, especially with advancement in Teichan technology? If they can hone the speed of the Teichan technology and somehow create a device that allows safe travels without, your body literally being torn apart on a molecular level due to the speed, things like that, then I think so. But I think that's going to take, if humanity's around this long, it's going to take several centuries, maybe even more. That's an extremely, extremely difficult achievement. I think I predict several centuries at least for something like that. At least several centuries. Because there's many things that have to discover, right? How to even operate within that kind of speed without being torn apart, how to hone Teichans, if they even can do that. There's a lot of discoveries. How to manipulate time. There's all kinds of things that they have to get right, and cross their T's on before they even get anywhere near that kind of achievement. You think Boruto would be better if the manga was releasing weekly instead of monthly? It would be more rushed, actually, so I don't think so. I think monthly is good. Take their time. I don't want shit product that we've had, recently. So, well, recently we got a very good chapter with the revelation of God Shibai, but before that it was not very good. If Vegeta used the Death Note, would it kill Black Frieza? Vegeta would be the type to do that, so he probably would kill Black Frieza. He'd probably kill a lot of people. People that he doesn't mess with. And he'd probably use it as a power trip. He's like, I have this. I'm the top dog now. Well, if anything, I might be wrong because he's the type to want to use his own power for it. So I might take back what I say and say Vegeta might not even use a Death Note. He's like, fuck this. I'm going to beat you myself. That's the type of guy Vegeta is, actually. So I backtrack on what I just said. Weird question, but why does it seem like 99.9% of pedophiles are mostly male? That's a good question. Now, the biological answer would be males are more predisposed to have a hunger for sexual interaction, and as a byproduct of that, there is more of a chance of a male having a contorted sense of sexual attraction, right? Because it's just clearly the case that males are much more hungry for sex, right? And as a result of that, we have much more males that have a contorted sense of what sexual attraction should be, right? So it makes sense rationally, right? Because of the biological design that males are and what they're genetically predisposed and biologically predisposed to do. Females don't have that sort of hunger for sex. That's why there's not very many female pedophiles in comparison. There's more room for error with males because most males have a hunger for it. And then, a male in the wrong environment with the wrong mindset ends up becoming a pedophile. So I guess empirically, there's just a better chance of those kinds of people arising being male. Unfortunately, I think all pedophiles are fucking disgusting, but most of them are male. What if Goku never got the heart virus? He would have beaten Jiren, and Tournament of Power would have ended there. He would have kicked Jiren off the platform, or pushed him off, or whatever he was going to do before the heart attack. So it would have been a smoother defeat of Jiren. So you wouldn't have to have, fucking Frieza's help and Android 17's help and all this other shit that happened at the end. So all right, folks, any and all questions are welcomed. Give me a second here. What if Yajirobe was Saiyan? Interesting question. He was relevant in Dragon Ball, so if his latent potential is even remotely close to that of Vegeta or Goku's, he'd be a top-tier individual, simply put. Right, he was somewhat relative in Dragon Ball, right, before Goku was even approaching power levels of 100 or 1,000, right, so, but now he's fucking fodder, because he's not Saiyan, but maybe near a top-tier individual if he was Saiyan, simply put. Alright. Heart virus, that was after we got back from the yard, right. I believe so. Alright, folks, any and all questions are welcomed. Donations are welcomed. Becoming a new member is welcomed, of course. For you guys that want to know exactly what's on there currently, there's me reacting to a very interesting debate. There's me actually responding to comments that I respond to in my own videos. That's a video that's for members only right now. There's a lot of content on there. More IRL topics on there as well, if you're interested in that. So if you want to see that kind of thing, become a member today. You also get access to a private Discord that only, members are in, that they can join. And, yeah. Let's see. Do you believe in reincarnation? Do you believe you have experienced past lives? That's a good question. Me personally, from my subjective lens, don't really believe in the notion of reincarnation per se. I believe we all have one soul and one soul only, right? With souls being this theoretical aspect that does have theories on it as well. I believe they're all individual and unique. I don't think they're passed down from body to body or whatever you want to call it, reincarnation or reincarnation. So simply put, I don't. But do I? Obviously, I'm open-minded due to the limitations that we have as humans, and which indicates our limitations of knowledge. I wouldn't be surprised of anything, really. So when I select a new host, very soon. I think by Sunday I should have a decision. It's tough, but I'm gonna have a decision, and the call-in show will probably be the first thing we do, with the co-host that I select, the co-host, and a possibility is I select two, and I'll just have them on when they're available. There's a very big possibility I do that, because there were some great performances, great logic, great knowledge on a wide variety of topics, things like that. So one or two, no more than two, but one or two individuals will be selected. It's a hard decision because there are a lot of great performances. So yeah. But these streams, as a result, will increase in entertainment because of that. So very soon. It's time to spice it up. That was my train of thought when thinking of a co-host and things of that nature. So all right, folks, any and all questions are welcomed. Any and all questions indeed. Su Wukong versus God and Satan. I don't think I'm familiar with Sun Wukong, but let's look it up. Interesting. Legendary mythical figure. One of the best characters in 16th century Chinese novel Journey to the West. Mythology. They even have a versus wiki on the guy. Interesting. Or a wiki, I should say. Metaverse level. Wow. Absolute boundlessness. Well, Jesus. At that point, it gets extremely difficult to scale these guys because they're just beyond all known knowledge and quantitative metric systems. But I would lean toward God and Satan, I guess, because of the lore. I mean, that's the only headcanon I could possibly muster up. What do you use to edit your videos? I think I have a Filmora Pro or some software like that I use. Eventually, I want to hire an editor to save time as I, up production. Eventually, that'll be the case. But for now, I edit my own stuff. I believe it's called Filmora Plus, if I'm not mistaken, or for Filmora Pro, something like that. Any and all questions are welcome, folks. Any and all, indeed. Once again, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the... Let's try to get to 30 likes consistently. That helps a lot. Appreciate it. Should YouTubers get YouTube Premium, or do they have enough money as is? Huh. I wouldn't mind that perk, being a YouTuber that helps with traffic. I mean, obviously, I'm not nearly as big as the biggest YouTubers in the world, but all YouTubers help to some extent. But then again, if they did something like that, they'd probably require you to reach a certain threshold, because then YouTube Premium would be free to everybody that has YouTube, because technically anyone can become a YouTuber that has a Google account. So maybe the top YouTubers should get it, but not everybody, because that would be insane. They would basically have to shut down YouTube Premium because no one's paying for it. I get it from the business side. From the business side of things, I get it. The paywall and things like that. So. Should Elon resign from Twitter? I believe he had a poll, and most people said yes, actually. There is the possibility that a lot of those votes that were yes were bots. So they definitely got to kind of clear that out of the way before they get to a real consensus. And if they said yes, and he said he's going to abide by it, then yeah, he should. He has to select the most objective, noble, and righteous person he can for the job. We don't want another cesspool like the old Twitter was, which the Twitter files are blatantly exposing and illuminating. Fucking even FBI was colluding with Twitter, which is fucking ridiculous. So Elon needs to select someone that is noble, has high integrity, has a great track record. Someone like that has to be selected. So I do think he should resign if the poll is genuine, because he said if the poll says yes, I'm going to abide by the poll. So being a man of his word, he should resign. Now, if the bots were most of the yes votes, then he shouldn't, because then most votes were actually no. So I guess we'll find out. All right, folks, about 10 more minutes unless someone donates. And next week, we're going to have a hell of a podcast, most likely. Probably a call-in show. So, all right, folks, any and all questions are welcomed. Any and all, indeed. Any and all questions. Which do you think is worse, being stuck on a planet by yourself or on Earth but no one can hear you or see you? Both are pretty bad. Which one is worse? I would say probably being on Earth where no one can hear you or see you, because at least being by yourself and actually being by yourself genuinely, you can start to train your mind to adapt to loneliness, although eventually you would go insane. But if you're on Earth and no one can hear you or see you, then you're always going to have that loneliness feeling, because you constantly see other people around you and you just can't reach them at all. So that would be fucking terrible. So I would probably rather suffer being stuck on a planet by myself, or at least I can't see anybody and I can start forgetting, or trying my best to forget about what it was like to socialize. People seem to want someone they like, a CEO, even president, rather than like someone with ideologies that are beneficial per se. Exactly. It's popularity now. It's a popularity contest in government, which is extremely dangerous. You end up fucking, one day you're gonna end up with a fucking dumbass in office. You know, it's preposterous. You need the most competent, noble, and highly trained guy for the job. Someone that's objective, someone that values fairness and integrity and, you know, justice over, you know, trying to conform to some arbitrary bullshit political agenda. It's fucking preposterous. You know, I don't agree with that. And democracy should be the system. That's the fairest way. You know, I just wish that the masses themselves weren't so emotionally biased. But unfortunately, with social media and the easy creation of echo chambers via virtual, you know, virtual platforms, it's easy to create emotionally biased ideologies. It's sad. It really is. I think the reason why there are so many religious beliefs in different gods because class were invented for thousands of years. So the reason there are so many religions and beliefs is because of human curiosity and there being a vast number of humans, which inevitably results in differences in ideologies, and not only not only the sheer amount of humans, but the sheer amount of cultures, environments, you know, other parameters around you that dictate and formulate your ideology. All right, so the biggest religions, I would say, the reason they're so vastly followed and you know, revered, such as Christianity and Islam, is because of the strong ideologies that they present. Right? They have a lot of, I guess, manual type of pieces of advice within their literature. Right? The Judeo-Christian Bible or the Quran. It's basically a manual for which to live your life. And there's something beneficial about that. You know, there's no malice intent from what I know of both. You know, those extremely popular religions. And the reason there's other ones is because, again, humans are curious. They're from different parts of the world. They have different influences resulting in different ideologies. And if one guy is revolutionary enough and insightful and articulate enough, they end up gaining a following. Right? They give this very rational and at times emotionally appealing ideology and create some sort of religion. It starts to gather a following. Right? It's the same thing with cults. Cults are more scrutinized because when people think of cults, they usually think of malevolent ideologies that are used to kind of coerce and manipulate people into believing some bullshit, right? Those guys that are literally just pieces of shit that would create these religions to gain some sort of benefit for themselves. Right? We've seen those kind of cults over the years. But Christianity and Islam doesn't have that sort of thing. Maybe within, you know, certain congregations within the religion, we see it sometimes. You know, people abusing their power, like in, you know, in the fucking Catholic schools with the priests doing nasty shit and stuff like that. That's corruption. That is inevitable. But the reason there's so many religions is curiosity, differentiation in many aspects, many variables, and yeah, those two are the main aspects, main factors for that. So spirituality is a tool, most definitely. I agree. I'll have our disposal utilized to have better existence. Exactly. Ideologies, a good ideology, I would classify, is a manual in which to live your life. It goes beyond believing in God and things like that, right? Because God is the incentive, I guess you could say, in Christianity and Islam, to live your life in a better way. Heaven is the incentive, right? And while people might not believe in the incentive, they should believe in the life that is now being lived, right? Because these guys live really clean and noble lives. That's a good thing. Whether you're a fucking atheist or not, or a religious nut job or not, that's beneficial to you in this world. So, baddie with dirty room but great sex, or pretty girl loves to clean, supportive, educated but doesn't give head. If you're talking about short term, go with the bad bitch, clap her, throw her back to the streets. If you want long term commitment, I would take the girl that has better personality traits, even if she's maybe a 7 in comparison to the, you know, messy 10. I'll do that every time if it's long term. Beauty fades. Men want variety. And that's the truth. What happens is, if you just have a bad bitch and she's attractive, that fades. But when you have a long-term partner that has great personality traits, there's other things that are appealing about them despite their beauty. Right? There's value in them despite their beauty. And I'm talking about from the dating marketplace. I'm not saying that, you know, messy bad bitches are worthless. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the dating marketplace itself. Just catching up. I'll join a call-in show. Very well. Very well. I mean, I owe you that because of you flexing your bag, you debating me several times, being the only female to date having the guts to debate me live or on a recording. So I guess I owe you that. About yourself and how you translate your energy around others. Exactly, yep. What is humanity's most crippling trait in your opinion? The most crippling trait? Probably hate. Grudges. Things similar to those kind of aspects are the worst. Because, like Moderate said, it results in this inevitable cyclical nature of reality, right? Peace and war, peace and war. It's constant, constant. It's the fluctuation. Oh, there's peace, now there's war. There's peace, now there's uprising. That trait is the antithesis of the good traits that result in peace, right? For peace, there's nobility, integrity, cooperation. For war, there's ego, pride, resentment, etc. So those kind of traits are the worst that humanity has to offer. On grand scale, if we're talking about an individual human, I think selfishness, malevolence are the worst for a single guy. That's how you result in guys like Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, these other pieces of shit out here, or someone like Adolf Hitler, or someone like, Stalin, or these fucking pieces of shit out here. It's because it's things like that. I'm down to drop the links. Costco or Sam's Club. Costco just sells things in bulk. It's very convenient. If you want to bulk up, ironically, or unironically, go to Costco. John from Artisty World 1 versus fiction. John transcends fiction. Period. So. Alright, folks. About 5 more minutes unless someone donates. About 5 more minutes. I see the streams are becoming more well varied, which is good. More and more topics being discussed. John Donne is built different. That's facts. Absolutely. By the way, folks, probably the last reminder of the show, unless someone donates any still longer, make sure to hit the like button, folks. Make sure to hit the like button. Naruto Explained or Qualman. I'm more of a Naruto Explained fan myself, personally. I like his takes and I like his style when it comes to his content. Qualman is cool too, though. Alright, folks. Any and all questions are welcomed. Once again, let's hear it for all the donators, all the members. You guys are all goats. Appreciate it, brothers and sisters. For the females, like Alexa. Funny how much the world would have changed if the art university in Austria would have accepted Hitler. Jesus, it would have greatly been altered. World War II would have been greatly different if it happened at all. It's extremely, extremely significant event. Both amazing channels. Yeah, they're both really good. Would you ever debate Kabuki Sage on Naruto? Jesus. That would be fucking hilarious, and it would be a whipping. I know that as a fact. It'd be him yelling and me just spitting facts, just like Swag and Six did. Would have Hitler never committed suicide? Some people have a conspiracy theory that he didn't. But if he would have continued his reign, he'd eventually would have been taken out. For sure. He would have been killed eventually. There was too many targets on his head from many states, many nations, many congregations of people wanted that guy dead, rightfully so. So he would have been dead eventually. Time was very limited on his life, that's for sure. Very, very limited. How would the Kages and Naruto handle World War I and II? Well, if we presuppose they have the powers that they do, they would single-handedly stop it. One Kage would probably be enough. Simply put, they probably would bring world peace. That's if we presuppose that the corruption doesn't go to their head, or that their power doesn't go to their head. Because that's possible. Someone like Danto, let's say that he's Kage. The power's going to go to his head. He's going to enslave the earth and just gain power. But if we have someone like Hashirama, there'd be world peace. So it depends on the Kage. What if Hitler won? I think Kanye would be his biggest fan. Kanye would probably be in a concentration camp with the rest of us. That's probably where we would all be right now. So, Trust me, he wouldn't like Hitler right now. I'll tell you that. We'd all be in a fucking camp right now. You know, just counting down our last days. So I'll be waiting to be in the fucking gas chamber. That's what would happen. What if the Great Library of Alexandria was never destroyed? The secrets that are within that area can only be imagined. Who knows? Who knows what was within that library? The what ifs are interesting. Yeah, simply put, no one would like Hitler if he would have won. Trust me, no one. The world would be a cesspool. What would have happened eventually is there would have been uprisings all over the world. Let's say if Hitler is able to get his sort of empire to a global scale, there would be uprisings. They would never stop. People would be breaking out, trying to kill him, kill the guards, everything. That would never end until he's defeated and trampled. So. Alright, folks, about 3 more questions, and I shall depart. Unless someone donates, then I'll stay longer. It would be hoarded and hidden by some other empire or group of people, just like any ancient knowledge. What if the Sharingan and Rinnegan were real, and to obtain them you had to escape the Matrix? The Sharingan would put you in a jihad plan. Escape the Matrix you mean by escaping out reality, or do you mean more in a figurative way? If it's in a more figurative way, then some people would have it by now. And you'd be all-powerful on Earth, for sure. Now, if it's a literal way, currently there is no way to escape a reality, so no one would have it until technology reaches a level where that's physically possible, you know. Should versus Wiki be credited as a reliable source? For the most part, there are definitely some issues, such as the one Seth pointed out when he was kind of assessing the Dragon Ball versus Wiki content. For the most part, I believe it's credible. It seems that there's a lot of sources that edit these things. So if you're not knowledgeable at all on something and you look it up, I guess you could take it as credible. But if you're extremely knowledgeable on something and you read it, then you could assess it better. So it's a slippery slope with Versus Wiki. If I had to put a quantitative value as far as percent of credibility, it's probably like 75%, 80% credible, around there. More so than not, at least. Alright, folks, about 2-3 more questions. I'm gonna hop off. Thanks for the stream. Appreciate it, bro. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. A couple more questions, folks, if any and all people have some. Would you want to see out of Boruto as a series that Naruto was never able to do? What would you want? Let's see. What's something I'd want to see? A better final climax. Maybe I'm hoping that maybe the interaction between Boruto and Kawaki is better than the end of the war arc in Naruto, which with fucking Kage's dumbass. I'd want to see a better conclusion. So I hope we see a better ending to the series, if that's the ending, that is. Whether it is or isn't, I hope we see a very good ending to Boruto whenever that happens. It's probably still years from now, but yeah. Alright, folks, one more question, and I shall depart. Any and all questions are welcomed. HVAC or trucking? Again, it depends on your passion, depends on what you gravitate towards more, things of that nature. It really depends on what your goals are in the end. You know, You got to approach life that way, and realize that sometimes you're gonna have to do things that you don't want to do. So keep that in mind as well as you make a decision like that. Sacrifice is inevitable. The more ambitious, the more sacrifice will come with it. So all right, folks. If that is the last question, then I believe I shall depart. Next week, more than likely, there's going to be a call-in show with the new co-host or co-hosts, and that's going to be pretty interactive. All right, last question here. You think Sneako's ban was deserved, earned, and you think he'll be able to make a comeback? I don't think it was earned or deserved whatsoever. I think it was bullshit that they banned him and Tate. It was tyrannical that they banned him for no reason other than differences in ideologies. So I'm glad Musk did what he did. I hope there's more people like him that clean up these preposterously biased social media platforms. I think it was extremely tyrannical that they banned him and Tate. It's complete bullshit. Do I think he'll make a comeback? I think Rumble's going to grow to a point where he won't need to. Financially, he'll be so well off that he won't need to come back to something like YouTube ever again. And the only way he'd come back, I think, is if someone like Elon Musk takes over and really allows freedom of speech. I don't see that happening anytime soon. YouTube is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and someone with Musk's power, maybe even more than that, would have to come around and buy it, for something that drastic to happen, like Twitter. So I don't think he's going to come back to like the YouTube space and things like that, but he's going to live on online. He's still doing it to this day. So him, Tate, guys like that are fine. Thank God there are platforms where freedom of speech is really allowed. So it's actually an actual policy, so I'm very glad that's the case. But yeah, folks, I think that is all. Thanks for coming in. Make sure to hit the like button if you haven't already. Once again, the more likes the better. It gets us up in the algorithm. Thanks for all the donations. One more time for other members and donators over the last few streams. Appreciate you all. Again, there will be a call-in show more than likely next week, so come with your questions. And I shall catch you in the next stream, folks. Until then, stay classy.